It is a big pleasure for me to introduce you Mr. Mark Kozak-Holland. Mr. Holland is probably the most, how shall I say that, is the most interesting and world-famous guy speaking about project management, his history, and the transformation of project management during the periods. Mr. Holland, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can everyone hear me? Mike? Okay, everyone can hear me. Okay, so first of all, thank you, Panos. Thank you for the board of directors for the invitation. Absolute honor to be here. I'm going to spend 45 minutes convincing you that you are part of a continuum that started with Pericles when he built the Parthenon 451 BCE, and it's a wonderful monument. So what we're going to talk about today is what can we learn from past transformational periods and transitional periods and transformational projects. I will present you 3 transformational projects. Initially, I was thinking of projects from ancient Greece, but Panos convinced me that maybe we go with something a little bit more recent. So these transformation projects are from the Industrial Revolution of the last 200-300 years. And I'm going to show you there is very little difference in what happened in these projects to what is happening today. And you could argue that Greece was poised on the precipice of an industrial revolution before the Romans took over many, many years ago. So we'll talk about these disruptive technologies. We'll talk about how they're impacting projects today. But what's important about this is the way these projects were managed by the teams. I'm going to focus on the sponsors and the project managers. And this morning we heard a lot about some of the constraints that are currently in this economic climate, and I'm going to show you that those constraints existed in these projects. When I start talking about Transcontinental Railroad, the greatest, most important project of the 19th century because of its transformational effect, that was actually started during the Civil War, the US Civil War. So who in his sanity would start a major project like that, a mega project during a civil war, the most disruptive period, and yet it was done. And I have a question to you all about that later, so we'll throw that out in a bit. Okay, so let's start with today. Emerging technologies are absolutely disrupting the business world, period. It's happening. You can see it, right? Uber, you're familiar with. Airbnb, absolutely massive impacts on the business world. Netflix changes the whole way television, media are acting. BBC have completely changed their business model. They're moving away from television, they're moving to iPlayer because of Netflix. Tesla, massive impacts. All these upstarts have come in, and these are new companies that have been set up in the last 5, 10, 15 years. What they have done is they've taken emerging technologies and they've developed new business models, and these business models are really challenging. I mean, look at Uber, look at the fight they're having in London. You know, who would ever think that Uber could establish itself in London? I know they've been kicked out, but they'll be back on the horizon because of millennials. The point I'm making here is this is going to continue for the next 10, 20 years minimum. And what it's going to do, it's going to affect current organizations. Current organizations need to react to this. They need to look at the way they operate. They need to look at their existing business models. They need to change. And this is where project management comes in. This is where all of you are going to have to play a key role in transformation of existing companies. And I'm not just talking about private sector, I'm talking public sector. When you see these case studies, public sector was very much part of the picture. Okay, so it's a way of engaging the public sector. And what I heard this morning, the constraints, those shouldn't be constraints. There has to be a way we can work around the existing constraints in any kind of environment. Because that's what we do as project managers. We're project managers and we work in the unknown. That's our speciality. Our speciality is all about the unknown world. So we look back through 100 years of industrial revolution. So this started 300 years ago. Look, it's the same thing. Okay? One emerging technology comes along, the steam engine. It absolutely demolishes each industry it's introduced to. Mining, textiles, manufacturing, completely changes the landscape, this one emerging technology. We see then the emergence of iron, the first iron bridge. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then engineering, the improvements that are required to evolve this technology. Then into transportation, the locomotive, that's another case study, and farming. Each time this emerging technology went into an industry, it completely disrupted it, the same as what we're seeing today. It's exactly the same model. Nothing has changed. So what can we learn from this? And I think there's some significant lessons. Well, the first thing is projects are absolutely critical to the way emerging technology is used in entering these industries, because projects deal with uncertainties. They deal with the unknowns. This is what we do as project managers. First thing you do as a project manager, you're given a project, what do you do? What do I know? What do I not know? Unknowns versus knowns. You list them and you start to explore that space. That's what we're really good at doing. Complexity and uncertainty. Those are two further elements to it. Projects adapt and evolve technology. They basically are part of a discovery. And as the technology is being adapted and evolved through prototypes and pilots, okay, there's other changes that have to happen simultaneously. We have to redefine the processes and realign the organization. And you'll see this. Where projects have failed to adapt the practices and the processes, they fail. You'll see that with the first project, the Iron Bridge. There wasn't an adaptation of the processes. You have to adapt those simultaneously. And these are lessons that we learned. David Carr's going to be speaking about change. He's going to be talking about people, organization. That's very much part of it. So these are the three pillars of transformation: people, process, technology. Very much starting with the technology that needs to go through the evolution. So projects take you from an as-is state to a future state. That's the transformation. And projects do what operations cannot. There is a massive difference between projects and operations. Operations deal with certainty, the known, service levels, collecting metrics, doing things. Projects don't deal with that. And the best way of describing it is by looking at the spectrum, the known and unknown spectrum. Now, this spectrum talks about where you have projects that are dealing with the known factors. So, for example, things that have been done before. We've built bridges for 1,000 years, so we know all about construction. So those are known projects. But as you start moving to the far right, the unknown increases. And we get to the very far right where we have cutting-edge technologies, new materials, composites, software algorithms that predict behaviors. Those are unknown projects that require very innovative tiger teams. And the spectrum, I would argue that where project management needs to be focused within organizations is on the right side of that spectrum. The left side of it is almost operational because it's dealing with knowns. It's dealing with all the certainty and so on. I mean, there's still projects, but you could throw a junior project manager on a lot of those because they're delivering repeatable projects that have been done in the past. What we do is got to be on that cutting edge. And there are many changes that are required within the project management organizations to be able to recognize that and to be able to support that, that whole ethos of dealing with the unknown. Okay, let's get to my favorite bit. I'm absolutely passionate about history. We'll talk about I'm going to talk about these three projects. So the first one is called the First Iron Bridge Project. Okay, so this is the scenario. We have this gorge in the UK, Coldbrook Dale, it's called. It's a valley, and over 10, 20 years, all the elements are there for the Industrial Revolution to start to blossom. And they've got vast deposits of coal, they've got iron, they're able to start to manufacture iron products. And all of a sudden, there's a realization that, hey, it's a valley, we need a bridge. You know, well, okay, if we're going to build a bridge, and we're the center of iron, why don't we make it out of iron? So the idea comes forward. So the project is basically a very good demonstration of waiting for the market to catch up with an idea, right? So basically, you've got iron, and you've got bridge building, but no one has ever built a bridge out of iron. That's the connection. That's the problem. So the successful project will have to develop a market, and that was the whole concept behind this, is that if we build a bridge out of iron, it will help promote our area economically, we'll grow, and we'll be able to expand our product base and go forward. Problem is, cast iron is not widely understood. It's a new technology. The project risks relate to bridge building, but really building from the iron. And the experience is building in stone and in wood up to date. Those are the practices that are currently being used for this. So what happens is, in the planning phase, a man comes along, Abraham Darby. Now what he does is he's the sponsor, and he owns the iron works. And he says, okay, you know, I will sponsor this, I'll find some other people, we'll go forward with this. And they basically agree to a share issue. Now what Darby does is he defines the estimates. He actually estimates what he thinks the iron, how much iron is going to be required to build this bridge. And he does it just based on some limited experience that he has. He estimated that they would need 300 tons of iron and at £7 per ton. Okay, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that he's actually putting his own money into this. The payback of this, there's a strong business case. They're going to have a toll bridge on the top, which is every time you cross the bridge, you pay a penny or whatever it is. So there's a good payback in this. The business case is strong, the bridge is needed. Now all they need to do is get the royal assent. The government, they have to go to the government, get permission from the government. The government says, yeah, you can do that, you can build a bridge. If you want to build it in iron, that's fine with us. So the project goes forward. Now what happens is Darby turns to an architect and says, hey, we've never built with iron before. How are we going to do this? And the architect is trained as a joiner, okay, as a carpenter, okay, so he builds chairs, tables, things like that. So, oh, no problem, I'll build a bridge out of iron. So he starts to design these joints that he would do in wood, okay. Now, is that efficient? No. He ends up with 800 castings of 12 basic types. The problem here is they didn't stop and think. They didn't think about the technology they were dealing with. They didn't try and advance the practices, okay? So what happens? They build an absolutely beautiful bridge. It's one of the most beautiful bridges in the world, okay? It took them 6 years to complete it because of delays in funding. There was only 2 years spent on construction. So this is another good case study in terms of entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of time is actually spent in the funding in these projects. So they build this absolutely wonderful bridge. It's one of the most visited destinations in the UK, and but it's over-designed. It's completely way over-designed. It's got way too much iron, it's too complex, and you could build bridges with far less iron. So the final cost of the bridge was £6,000 or $9 million today. And as a result, Darby goes bankrupt. He never ever builds anything again because he made the estimates in the first place. Okay, so he loses his shirt and he's never involved. Now think of the impact of that. Think of who built the Acropolis Museum. Does anyone know? You don't know who built the Acropolis Museum? Okay, I'll tell you. It's Michael Fontadias, yes? Michael Fontadias. Okay, think about Michael builds the Acropolis Museum, okay? He has to put his own money in. He's the designer. He never builds again. His career is over. Or Norman Foster, who built the Reichstag. He builds it, never builds again. Great story. Sydney Opera House. Jørn Utzon, you probably never heard of him. He built the Sydney Opera House. That project overran. It was a mega project, it overran. The politician, Cahill, lied to Parliament and basically lied about the costs. He got the project through. And of course, when the project overran, the architect got the blame. Jørn Utzon never built another structure after that. So these things happen. Architects get blamed for the wrong reasons. So he overran. He was in debt for the rest of his life. With new technology funding, it's always a challenge. So these are very, very important lessons. Where did he go wrong? Where did he go wrong? Well, he didn't pilot the technology. You know, you need to pilot stuff. He went straight into construction. He took the practices from a joiner. He didn't select his team correctly. So this is a good example of a technology, an emerging technology, looking for a solution, looking for a solution, technology solution, looking for a problem, looking for an opportunity. Okay? All right, let's move on. We'll come back to Derby. However, this is very important. What happened after the bridge? Well, literally in a very short time frame, the Sunderland Bridge appears. And it's absolutely innovative because what did they do? They introduced cast iron elements, cross-connectivity, ties, and so on and so on. So what have they changed? What have they changed? The practices. They've gone back and said, no, you can't build a bridge using wood, joinery, carpentry. You have to come up with a whole new set of practices. And that's exactly what they did. And very quickly, all around the world, they realized that iron is 200 times lighter, cheaper than wood, than stone. You can build far greater lengths, and suddenly there's a craze, there's a revolution. But when the Sunderland Bridge was built, again, piloting, prototyping went on, and that's very, very important. They built it successfully, and it was commercially successful moving on. So these are the very important lessons. You have to adjust your practices. You have to adjust your business models as well. Okay, let's move into the next project. So this now fast forwards about 25 years. So this is a project for the Stockton-Darlington Railway. This is really the first commercial railway in the world. Now, how does the story start? Well, it starts with Edward Pease. He's a Quaker, a Puritan, and he is a wool merchant. And what he's finding is that the transportation system is terrible. You know, it costs him a fortune to ship by horse and cart his products to the nearest shipping port. And he realizes that they need to create some sort of a better transportation system, but there's vast coal resources very close by. So he's got his products, there are other products as well. Wouldn't it be great if they created a transportation system? So he starts to think about it, and he's the catalyst. So he's the project sponsor behind it, very much like Abraham Darby. So you can see here, this is the geography, the port is over there on that side, this is the location. Now, they do some surveys, and they find that there's different options. There's different business models for transportation, and one of the obvious transportation models at the time is the canal system. This is important because this comes back later into the thinking about how business models need to evolve. The second survey comes back and says, you could also build a railway, but horse-drawn. A horse is pulling along. And this technology has been around for a number of years. It's probably been around for at least 100, 200 years, rail-drawn railway systems. Now, at this point, he's thinking, well, you know, we've already got canals. Why don't we go down the more expensive route? Because maybe there's opportunities here. So he's thinking like an entrepreneur, and that's what entrepreneurs do. They're constantly looking for opportunities. He's looking for opportunities, even though that this is more expensive. So he's thinking, let's build something like this, horse-drawn. It's been around for hundreds of years. It's used in mines. It uses technology of cast iron and wrought iron. Okay. Now, there are steam engines as well, but the steam engines that have been used in railways up to this point have been really stationary engines. They sit in one place, they have a cable, and it pulls the wagon along. And they even had one in the British troops during the American Revolution, used one in Lewiston at the end of the 18th century. So 20, 30 years before this, they already had this technology. So there's some thinking, well, maybe we could use some of these stationary steam engines as well. But it's not clear at this point. And it never is. When you're in a project in the early stages, you don't have a really clear idea of how the technologies are going to work, how they're going to interact, how is it all going to be put together. But that's project management. That's what projects are about. Projects are about exploration and about discovery. They're about the unknowns. These are all unknowns at this particular point. So he's heading towards, as I said, he's heading towards this rail-drawn, #2, favoured horse-drawn railway. It's more innovative. It's more expensive, but again, it's an opportunity, so he decides to go down this direction. So in 1821, the project charter comes, the government comes along, says, okay, we're going to give you a charter. They had to wait for this charter. The charter says you can build a railway that's going to be 40 kilometers long, and you're going to be responsible for it. Now, Pease assembles a team for the project. He has some difficulty in finding the funding, and also it's perceived a risky project. What's interesting is he actually finds the funding amongst his set. He's a Puritan, a Quaker. Actually, it's interesting, a lot of these people were the fathers of the banking systems in the UK. Barclays, Lloyds Bank, all were founded by Puritans, because a lot of them were entrepreneurs. So he's got the money, and there is some talk at this time of, well, what about locomotives? Could we use a locomotive in this? And they said, well, you know, it's expensive and it's very, very unproven. We've got 1 or 2 locomotives that have been built in mine situation, but we don't, this is too long. This is 40 kilometers. A locomotive won't work in this situation. Anyway, the story moves on. George Stephenson, renowned engineer, comes along and he meets Pease, and Pease is very much impressed by him. And he's so impressed that he says, look, I'm building this railway project. Can you come along as a chief engineer? I'll give you a big salary. And they agree. So they move forward. And Stephenson has got some practical experience of locomotives. And what he does is he turns to Pease and says, look, we could build locomotives. I know it's an unproven technology, but it's far more flexible and there's far more opportunities if we go forward. But if we do this, we're going to have to make some investments because this is all, you know, emerging technology. So the options really are to either stay with the stationary engines or add locomotives to the stationary engines. So now we have 3 forms of transport: horse-drawn, stationary engine, and locomotive. So the idea is well, let's go with all 3 forms of transport. So you can see how muddled the approach is at this point, but that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't have to be clear at this point, because what Stephenson is saying is let's try it. Let's go down this path and do some exploration, right? Because I think he's saying the stationary engines are somewhat limited. On a distance of 40 kilometers, you're going to have problems with the cables and so on. You're going to have all sorts of technical problems. And he was responsible for building these locomotives at the Killingworth Colliery, which is a mine. It was only a short distance. It was only a couple of kilometers. This was going to be a much greater length. Now, one of the big breakthroughs that happens here is Pease really is a outstanding entrepreneur, and he puts his money where his mouth is. And he basically says, okay, we're going to go with locomotives. He's convinced that Stephenson is the right engineer, the right mechanic. They have to invest. So they invest together. So they actually spin off a separate project, and they build the first railway locomotive factory in Newcastle. And what they do is they bring in skilled mechanics. It costs a lot of money. They have to pilot this immature technology, and they do that. They both make big investments, and they create in this factory 4 stationary engines, because they're still not convinced that everything can go to the locomotives, and 2 traveling locomotives. So they're kind of banking both sides with this technology. So that was project decision number 2. Project decision number 3 is the bigger picture. The bigger picture is this is a transportation system. That's what Pease was interested. But rail for passengers is in its infancy. There's already a horse-drawn, fare-paying transportation system that exists, right? So do we ignore it, or do we open ourselves up to this potential of what could happen? I mean, do we actually absorb it into our business model? And the answer is yes, let's make preparations. So again, this is another very important learning lesson. Don't close off your options on the business model too early. They thought, well, let's provision for it at least. Let's make the option available. So Stephenson pilots. He's going through these project pilots. He's converting his unknowns to knowns. He's working there furiously in his factory. He's increasing his fundamental knowledge in core technologies. He's beginning to understand the differences between the different types of iron for iron rail. He identifies the kind of trends that could possibly come out of this. What would be required for business versus passenger freight, what kind of locomotives, what kind of rail. And through all this, he's identifying the next generation of technology in locomotives and rails. And he actually got very much integrated into an existing global community, rail community that was out there. He realized he needed experts from different areas that could be connected. And that's what he's doing. He's doing nothing different to what I would do in a project today. He's integrating various technologies to build a complete system, but he's doing it through a pilot. Okay, so what happens? Well, they complete the railway, and they decide that, well, you know what? Let's have a big opening day. Now, the reason they do this is because the project is in serious financial trouble. They have spent a hell of a lot of money up to this point. And in fact, Pease he's not saying too much, but he realizes that they're going to have to do something because of the cost overruns that have existed. So the financial need basically drives them to having this open day. But initially what they were thinking is, well, we'll have an open day, we'll have a train running along, we'll have some cargo in it, and people can come along and see. But unexpectedly, and this is where opportunities just come out of nowhere, the word gets around that there's going to be an opening day, and this steam engine can go faster than a horse. It can go over 25 miles per hour, or 35, 40 kilometers. It can go faster than a horse. So people get really excited about it. And on opening day, literally tens of thousands of people, 40,000 people show up. So they think, all these people here, and they like this steam, and we've got these wagons, why don't we just allow these people to go on the wagons? We'll charge them a penny a ride. So everyone wants to get on this train. And it's the first time there's actually a locomotive-drawn passenger train. Now, they make quite a lot of money out of the fact that they opened it up to the public. But the public is so excited because the train is going along and people are racing on horses and they're beating the horses in the distance. And the public is mesmerized by this technology. So all of a sudden, there's a realization that, hey, hang on a minute, we've got another business model that's emerged over here. We need to do something about it. Look at the bottom there. Horse-powered opponents, meaning horse rail, what do? They try and buy the locomotives at £100 because they see it as a major risk to their current operation. How often does this happen? Well, I'd say almost every time a new technology comes along, the existing landscape will try and kill it. Because that's the way business is. It'll kill it. And that's what they try to do. They try to kill this. Okay, so where does this story go? Well, the project's in trouble. It's overrun by 50%. So what does Pease do? Does he abandon the project? No, he's smart. He basically goes back to every shareholder. He goes, look, we need more money. You have to invest. We've got something that is dynamite. It's going to change the world. He actually advances his own personal money twice to pay all the workers on the project. Locomotion is actually that's the name of the locomotive. It's called Locomotion. Proved to be very, very reliable. And the movement of coal all of a sudden becomes actually very lucrative. Soon the line is extended to a further port, and over time there's a dividend of 5%. So he holds his own. He holds his nerve. Right? He doesn't cave in to pressures, and he's able to sustain this project. Now, this is one of the most important lessons, I think, out of this whole thing, how the business model changed. So initially, they're talking of running it in terms of the wagon ways, horse pulling along. But what actually happened was when they started to mix the three different technologies, stationary, moving, and horses, all sorts of accidents. It was crazy. It didn't work. Guys on a horse pulling this wagon, there's a locomotive behind him. Fights were breaking out, between the different operators. So they came to a realization that this technology is good enough to take forward, and they abandoned everything, including the stationary engine, and they went to the locomotive. So this business model gradually, well, not gradually, but it emerged over a period of months. That's the important thing, that you don't know what the end business model is going to look like. They were basing, what do you think the baseline business model was that they were basing this on initially? What was in their minds? What was the business model they were going to base this transportation system on? I mentioned it before. No, not coal. Sorry? No. What was the business model? The business model of what? What was the alternative to the railway? Canal. They were looking at the canals, right? They were, on the canals, you had horse-drawn barges. You also had steam engine barges as well. So they were looking at that business model, and they were building with that. So the point is that you have to be flexible to changing your business model. This business model emerged, unfortunately emerged at the right time. If this business model didn't emerge at the right time, the project would have tanked, you follow? Because they wouldn't have got enough financial gains back quickly enough. So you have to be extremely flexible going forward. Okay, we're going to the last, So what were the key lessons learned as project managers? Project managers need to be entrepreneurial and seek opportunities within projects. I'd say that's one of the most important things. And Panos, you were talking about that, about value management. It is absolutely critical. You can see here how opportunity management was critical to this project. Pilots, you have to pilot new technology. You have to make investments in that. You can't just take technology off the shelf and hope it's going to work. Number two, absolutely critical, reflexivity. What does that mean? It means you have to reflect on things. Yes, mistakes are going to be made. The whole point about this project was the atmosphere was absolutely perfect for this project to go through. Pease was expecting mistakes. All projects make mistakes, right? If we start to decapitate project managers because they make one or two mistakes, that's lunacy. Projects have to make mistakes because you won't learn from those mistakes, because here they made mistakes, they reflected on them, and they course corrected. Number three, unexpected high profits. All of a sudden, this business model appears from nowhere. They had no idea that passengers would love this because you're traveling faster than a horse, right? Number four, agility, changing direction. Look how many times they changed direction. You know, Pease actually changed direction in the decision early on. Stevenson came along. He was open to listening to new ideas. They changed direction later on as locomotives got proven. And all this started a railway revolution. So Stevenson went on to build the Liverpool-Manchester Railway. In fact, what actually happened was there was an explosion, and we're only discovering this right now. There was an explosion in the railway revolution. In fact, you talked about 50% of GDP projects. Look at this. 40% of GDP was driven by railways because all of a sudden it interconnected everything. And this business model was copied everywhere. It was copied all over Europe, all over North America, because railways now all of a sudden developed this national market. Goods could be produced in one location, decreasing the number of centers, and then just distributed everywhere very quickly. Okay, let's go to the next project. So Transcontinental Railroad. The biggest, most important mega project in the world in the 19th century. Does the railroad exist today? No. There's no Transcontinental Railroad today. It's gone. There's bits of it. You go to the desert, you can see the areas where the tracks are. It's gone because it's been superseded by something else. I wanted to add that because this is important because technology's changed, business models changed. This business model changed here. Okay, so the possible project facing huge challenges. So first of all, inhospitable terrain. This second factor, what do I mean by 29,000 kilometers supply chain? What do I mean by that? Can anyone answer that? What does that mean? 29,000 kilometers supply chain. You're building a transcontinental railroad across North America. Why is your supply chain 29,000 kilometers long? Come on, it's easy.
The tracks are still made at the origin.
Yes, the tracks are made on the East Coast, okay?
Yeah.
But you're building from both sides. It's like Yupalanus Tunnel, okay? So how would you get your tracks and your materials to your West Coast? The coach. You're gonna have a wagon train of horses, hundreds of kilometers long, carrying the materials. No, by ship. Okay, so how does the ship travel there?
Around South America.
Thank you. 29,000 kilometers. It was taking 9 months to get materials from one side to the other side of the coast. Think of the logistical problem. I mean, I was just blown away when I heard that. It was built during the Civil War. Who in their sanity would start a project in the most contentious war the United States had seen since the Revolution? In fact, it was way worse. Why was it built during the Civil War? Come on, someone have a guess. It's all to do with President Lincoln. He wants to see this railway built. Why does he start it in the Civil War? Come on, you're all senior project managers. Come on, someone give me an answer. Why does he start it in the Civil War? Sorry? Come on.
It was unifying the US.
No, not quite. That's kind of underlying decision, but the main decision. Sorry? It's correct. No. It's political. It's very political. It does unite, but it's still not the right reason. Okay, Lincoln was on the northern side. He's fighting the south. What's happened? The south is now segregated from the north. Okay, so politically, he's got no opposition because up to that point, the south wanted the Transcontinental Railroad going through their states. Okay, but because they have left the Senate, they've separated. He's got no political opposition, so all of a sudden he can get this project through the Senate, and that's why it was built during the Civil War. You think it's insanity, but it's actually all to do with politics. He was able to get the legislation through because no one was looking and paying attention to it. Now, why did he do this? Because he had the foresight to realize that, hey, when this war finishes, and hopefully we will win, I'm going to have a lot of unemployed soldiers walking around, and I want to keep them busy, right? Pericles, 451 BC, why did he build the Parthenon? Well, he just come back from war. He had a whole army of soldiers that were going to be unemployed. Why not give them a public works project to keep them busy? Exactly the same reason. See how history repeats itself? Economically, the war economy had a massive impact. It had huge inflation. The railroad industry was fairly embryonic, and the project was going to cost a fortune. But there were opportunities. There was also opportunities to include the telegraph, which would expand the scope. So it wasn't just a railway. It was actually a transcontinental telegraph link as well. Okay, now, this is where the story gets very interesting. The British, the experts in railway, okay, because they built the first railway, okay, and there's a whole railway revolution that went on in the UK in the 1840s. They actually tried to build a transcontinental railway in Canada. Well, it wasn't truly transcontinental, but it was across the populated bits of Canada, eastern Canada. So what happens? Well, they take the same business model they've got in the UK, and they apply it in Canada. So I don't know if you've heard of Brunel, the railway engineer, one of the famous ones. When he built the London to Bristol Railway, he built a perfectly straight railway. He built all these absolutely fantastic bridges. Well, of course, they try to do the same. They take across 3,000 navigators to dig everything. What happens? It goes bankrupt. The whole project tanks because they're not shifting their mindset. They're trying to build thousands and thousands of miles of railway, but they're using the same practices as they do in the UK. Now, here's what happens. The company goes bankrupt, and the British go, we've got a bankrupt company that tried to build a Grand Trunk Railway. What shall we do? We need to move the debt somewhere. They go, well, why don't we create a federation of Canada? I'm talking about the nation of Canada was created because of this bankrupt project, because they could offload the debt onto Canada. So that's how Canada was formed. The bankruptcy of a mega project shifted debt back onto them. I say that because I live there right now. I think it's just a very interesting story. It ties back to project management. Okay, so the scope, immovable constraints, 3,200 kilometers, uninhabited country, peaks of 2,000 meters. I've got a question for you coming up. Oh yeah, let's talk about this first. Government plays a critical role. If it wasn't for the government and Lincoln, it would have never happened. The first thing they do is they institute acts to have two railway companies building from the east and west, and they're going to meet somewhere, well, not in the middle, but they scale it according to the number of miles. If you're going across mountain, you get more money than going across the plains. So they pit them into a competitive race. The Homestead Act allows people to move into territory so they can ride along the railway. If you go and park yourself on a piece of land, you can own it after 5 years. Again, he's thinking about soldiers. Soldiers can move their families, once the war is over, gives them an opportunity. So he's thinking big, big picture, but he sets up the governance to make this project work. If it wasn't for this, this would have never worked. Now, did he come up with this from nothing? No, he didn't. He used existing ideas. The partitioning, the map thing, that was already used in Chicago. All these ideas were already around. He just brought them together and created governance. And that's what sponsors need to do. You need to create the governance for a project to survive underneath. Okay, now, how many bridges were in the Transcontinental Railroad? It's 3,000 kilometers long. How many bridges? Someone have a guess? Got a shy group here, panels. 20. 100. Keep going. 3. Keep going. Yes, it was actually 2,000. 2,000 bridges. So what kind of project is this? Is it a railroad project or is it a bridge project? It's a bridge project. Right. Okay. Now look at this. Look at this bridge. Look, read that. This is what Lincoln said about this bridge. He couldn't believe it. He just couldn't believe it when he saw it. But that bridge was built by US military railroad engineers. And the reason they built, that bridge was built in 9 days. And the reason they built this bridge so fast was because they were used to rebuilding bridges, because bridges were being blown up during the Civil War, because railways were used. The railway was actually the most important piece of technology in the American Civil War, absolutely. And the same with the First World War. The railway was the most important technology, because it was all about troop movement, materials, and so on. So what they do is he hires all these US military engineers, and they become part of the engineering team. Now, they build this bridge in 9 days. Now, you imagine the Brits, right, with their expertise building that bridge. How long would it take the Brits to build it? Well, probably about 5 years. They build it out of bricks, import all the bricks from the UK. See, completely different philosophy, right? Build the bridge as fast as possible. That bridge was rickety, meaning the trains going over it would move a meter either side. So you'd be sitting there going, whoa. But that's the way they built it. Look at all these emerging technologies that came out of this project. Swivel wheel tracks. Why? Because they have to go up mountains. So you put these very tight swivel wheels so you can have these switchbacks that go all the way up. They developed kits for rapid bridge building. 2,000 bridges, you've got to. Dynamite, because of all the tunnels. Insulators, cow catchers, giant snowplow. All these technologies were a crucial part of it. This project was incredibly innovative because it was operating in one of the most rugged environments. This story, one of the most important stories. There's a gold rush in California. No one wants to work on the railway. They can't get enough people. On the East Coast, the people that are working on the railway are, well, they've got people, but they're basically ex-soldiers. But there's, well, I'll get to that in a minute. On the West Coast, Lincoln goes, well, how are we going to get those enough people? So he goes to the Chinese government. He says, hey, look, we've got this project. We need some laborers. We'll pay you well. We'll pay each worker $24 per month. Yeah, okay, we'll send some over. So they send over 10,000 Chinese laborers. The Chinese laborers were the perfect worker. Why? Well, because they were contractors. They were in and out. They were there for a short period of time, 5 years. They were going to make as much money as possible. They were going to save the money, bank it, and go back to China. Right? That was the mentality. So they built camps. They looked after each other. They had great health system. They had great food, restaurants, not restaurants, just cafeteria, not cafeterias, but just, you get the idea. They looked after each other. On the eastern side, you look at the towns that were evolving around the eastern workers. It was all about gambling, drinking, prostitution. I mean, it was the worst excesses that you can imagine because those workers had a completely different mindset. These workers were so well respected, they were actually eulogized by the project. You can see that the bridges, those are snow tunnels they were building. So the lessons learned was this project was deemed absolutely impossible. The world was watching, but it was a spectacular success. Because before that, rail builders were, didn't think of they thought in tens of kilometers, not thousands of kilometers. The construction was slow and expensive, but it was a very pragmatic approach. And they speeded it up. So you can see there, look, 10 miles of track laid in one day. How can you build 10 miles of track? Well, because they found the processes, they just kept speeding those up and up and up. Now, what was the big difference between the American approach and the British approach in terms of projects? What was the fundamental difference? I've given you some clues already. Bridge built in 9 days. What's the difference? 10 miles of track built in 1 day. Come on, what's the thing? What's the difference? Yes, why? And why are they speeding it up? Why? 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 Yes, thank you. Get it operational as fast as possible. So I will build the easiest thing I can get away with. The bridges were almost falling apart, but it doesn't matter. Get the thing operational, get the revenues flowing in, and then go and improve it. But it makes sense. It makes sense. This is the only reason why this project was viable, because they changed the mindset. The Brits would have never, ever done this, because they were still operating a different business model. See how the business models change? They have to change with the culture. They have to change with the geography. It's absolutely critical. Okay, I know I'm tight on time here, so I'm going to try and wrap things up. Okay, so what can we apply to the business world in the near future? What are the lessons from these projects? Okay, so the first thing, transitional periods. You need governance, but very often you will not have standards in place, you won't have regulations in place, you won't have governance. So when the first railway bridge was built, there weren't any standards for iron. The same with the railways, there weren't any standards. There was business models there. They had to apply to the government to get permission to build the bridge and to build those railways. Transformational projects. You need prototypes. You need pilots at the core of it, scale up and production. You need to be able to take risks. They have to be pragmatic, adaptable, and agile. You have to have failures in this project. If you don't make mistakes and failures, you're not going to learn, right? And don't plan your business model. The business model may change. I think it's a good idea to do some pre-planning, some thinking, but don't have an expectation on what your business model is going to be. These business models emerge. All three projects, you see a different business model prior to what it started with. Third point, emerging disruptive technology. You need to pilot stuff, and it changes quickly. Look how quickly it changed between the Iron Bridge and the Sunderland Bridge, where they actually started putting the ties in the metal stuff. That still wasn't the end of the road for this emerging technology. Eventually, they arrived at the nut and bolt. You know, that was the final evolution. Funding is going to be a challenge. You have to integrate complex things, and they will evolve very, very quickly. You need to be changing your processes. You need to be able to innovate, and organizational structures will evolve and align. So you don't go into a project just thinking about technology. You've got to be aware of the process changes in all three projects, because process was absolutely critical to the practices that had to be changed as the project went along, and also the organizations that wrap around that. Okay, so today's world. This is from Forrester. Forrester paints a very good picture of how systems, I'm out of the IT world, that's why I've put this up. Systems are evolving into 4 different types of systems. You have customer-facing systems, you have Internet of Things, you have systems of record, and systems of insight. All 4 require different types of projects. So, insight, projects are research-driven. It's all about analytics. It's all about making discoveries. Different mindset to customer-facing projects, which are very much about continuous changing customer needs. Those projects need to be fast, agile, and responsive. You're seeing projects now that are as short as 1 to 3 months, actual projects, because they have to change to the way they engage and touch people. Systems of record, projects are far less agile, but they're still iterative, because the focus there is on areas like security and integrity. And then finally, this whole new area, this is exploding. This is our new, Well, they're all emerging technologies, but this is one of the most important ones and will be for your economy, Internet of Things. Now, in this scenario, you don't have standards. You've got competing standards, protocols. Projects here have to be exactly what we talked about with those three. They have to be exploratory, discovery, prototypes, and pilots. Respond to the feedback. Internet of Things responds to feedback from the environment. So if we look at the four main Greek industries and sectors, infrastructure, shipping, tourism, and energy, all those are going to, there's an input of these emerging technologies into all of these four sectors. Now, I've taken this from Gartner, okay, so, I'm being a little bit lazy here, but what I've said is, here's how infrastructure is going to be affected by IoT, right, or emerging technologies. So I took cities because that's part of my background. I've worked with cities extensively. So you talk about everything from car sharing, bike sharing systems, smart transportation systems. It's all going to evolve using these technologies to smart lighting, intelligent lampposts. That's the way this technology is going to change, and it's going to have a massive influence. Building controls and management, BIM, absolutely critical in infrastructure projects. Shipping. Now here we see other types of solutions. Transportation management systems, GPS, automated identification systems, RFID. All these are absolutely revolutionizing transportation, logistics, supply chains, and they're all evolving emerging technologies. All these technologies require projects to bring them to the surface. Tourism. Look how Airbnb or any of the sites like Expedia, look at the difference they've made, within your city, because they engage people, they engage different types of tourists, different groups, different associations, they bring them in. Museums. I was at the Acropolis Museum, fantastic. It's probably one of the best museums in the world. It really is. The technology there is wonderful, right? Where they show the recreations of the statuettes and so on with the color designs. But that's only the start. I'll come back in 10 years and they will have some form of virtual reality in there, augmented reality. And wouldn't that be wonderful? You can stand in front of the metatopes and see them actually against the Parthenon itself. All sorts of things they could do with these technologies. The Temple of Zeus. I'd love to see that stand in front of the columns and actually see the full temple. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That technology will be available. It will be available through your handsets probably in the next 10, 15 years. These are all huge opportunities. Energy, we talked about this earlier. Energy management systems, again, very much based on IoT because they save energy, meet government regulations and so on. IoT has evolved from EMS from a reactive market to a predictive market. This is where analytics come into it. AI, predictive modeling, and so on are a key part of it. So, the messages I want to leave you with, right? We need projects to evolve all these emerging technologies, but we have to be smart in how we do this, meaning that if the project is dealing with a lot of unknowns, we have to set up the projects in those ways. We have to be, as project managers, we have to be talking to our organizations and say, look, there's different types of projects. You need different skills. We talked about this earlier, Panos. We talked about where does an organization focus its project resources? Well, where the areas are most important. And it's probably going to be on the unknown because that's what we're good at. We're good at complexity, unknowns, piloting, and so on, right? We shouldn't be restricted by project management. We need to make it an absolute enabler for these. Organizations need to recognize fundamental difference. This is the messaging that you need to take back to your organizations. No, we're not operations. We are not operations, we're project management. We don't deal with the knowns, the steady state uncertainty. We don't care about that. You have operational line managers that do that. All the business schools around the world pump out millions of MBAs that deal with operations. That's different. What we do is unique. It's all about exploration. It's all about uncertainty. We're explorers in many ways. Projects are the only realistic means to transforming a business. An operation cannot do that. You cannot, because operations will never take the risk. They will never deal with the unknowns and uncertainties. And you'll just have a status quo. And those businesses will get smashed and they will be out of operation. Right? So finally, here's another key message. Projects need to be more strategic in an organization. How many organizations on the board have anyone with any kind of project experience? You're probably looking at less than 1 percentile, right? How many organizations are actually tied to the PMO? This is what Panos was talking about earlier. You know, very, very few. Most PMOs are tactical, bottom-up, built by project managers. They're great. I mean, I have no problem with that, but they're all dealing with standards and do we do the right thing? But that's the wrong thing for project management. We need to be at the top. We need to be strategic, driving the organization to fight off all these disruptive technologies that are arriving and are here today, right now. Right? If we don't do that, the world's going to change. It's going to be pulled out from under our feet. So projects need to be strategic. They need to be driven by business outcome. We've already said that. And we need to differentiate from operations. We are different to operations. We have to move away from this operations mindset. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions, or is that...
Λειτουργεί, φαντάζομαι. Γεια σας. Καλημέρα. Είμαι η Πέννη Κούτρα, είμαι δημοσιογράφος από την εφημερίδα Έθνος, το οικονομικό ρεπορτάζ, και θα ήθελα να καλέσω τον κύριο Μπενίση, τον κύριο Γιάννη Μπενίση, διευθύνων σύμβουλο της ΕΙΔΑΠ, και τον κύριο Βαφιάδη, αντιδήμαρχο Βρυλισσίων. Δυστυχώς, ο τρίτος καλεσμένος σε αυτή τη συζήτηση, σε αυτό το πάνελ, δεν θα μπορέσει να παρευρεθεί. Ήταν ο κύριος Αναγνωστόπουλος, ο πρώην... Θα τα βρούμε, εντάξει. Ο πρώην πρόεδρος της ΟΣΥ, οπότε θα συνεχίσουμε τη συζήτηση οι τρεις μας.
Εδώ καθόμαστε.
Όπου βολεύεστε εσείς. Νομίζω ότι έτσι είναι καλύτερα. Να είστε κοντά εσείς, να έχουμε εδώ χώρο να αφήνουμε τα πράγματά μας. Να ξεκινήσω καταρχάς με τις... Θα ήθελα να ακούσουμε τις δικές σας τοποθετήσεις ως επικεφαλής ενός οργανισμού που εκτός από ΔΕΚΟ είναι στην ουσία διαχειριστής υποδομών. Θα ήθελα να μας πείτε, και ανάπτυξης υποδομών, θα ήθελα να μας πείτε λίγο πώς κινείται επιχειρησιακά η ΔΑΠ, ιδίως σε ένα περιβάλλον στο οποίο οι πόροι δεν είναι ανεξάρτητοι, είναι δύσκολοι και οι δημόσιες επενδύσεις περιορίζονται λόγω των δημοσιονομικών ορίων.
Μάλιστα. Καταρχήν, να σας ευχαριστήσω που θα έχετε την υπομονή να μας ακούσετε και θα μπω κατευθείαν στο θέμα. Η ΕΙΔΑΠ, όπως όλες οι ΔΕΚΟ, έχει ένα χαρακτηριστικό, ότι πρέπει να αναμίξει σε σωστές αναλογίες τρία χαρακτηριστικά. Το ένα είναι το δημόσιο, το άλλο είναι το επιχείρηση και το άλλο είναι το κοινοφελής. Αυτά τα τρία δεν είναι εύκολο να αναμειχθούν, διότι μπορεί κανείς εύκολα να καταλάβει ότι έχουν μερικές φορές και αντιθέσεις. Τι ανάμειξη θα κάνεις εξαρτάται από την πολιτική που θέλεις. Έτσι, εάν δηλαδή δώσεις βάρος στο δημόσιο, πιθανόν να είναι εις βάρος της έννοιας επιχείρηση και ίσως εις βάρος της έννοιας κοινοφελής. Έτσι. Από την πρώτη στιγμή που αναλάβαμε, αυτό μπήκε σαν στοίχημα μέσα μας. Δηλαδή, είπαμε, έχουμε βάλει ένα στοίχημα. Ακούγαμε ότι ο δημόσιος τομέας είναι αναποτελεσματικός. Ακούγαμε ότι δεν μπορεί, έχει εγγενείς δυσχέρειες ο δημόσιος τομέας να επιχειρήσει. Ακούγαμε ότι ο ιδιωτικός τομέας διαπρέπει, είναι πολύ πιο γρήγορο αποτελεσματικός. Έτσι. Και προσπαθήσαμε και δεν ξέρω σε τι βαθμό στο τέλος θα τα καταφέρουμε, να έχουμε το εξής, ότι να έχουμε την αποτελεσματικότητα του ιδιωτικού τομέα. Δύσκολο. Υπάρχει μία, να την πω τη λέξη, εγκαθιδρυμένη νοοτροπία παντού, την οποία προσπαθούμε να την αλλάξουμε. Αλλάζει εύκολα? Όχι. Δύσκολα. Με το δικό μας παράδειγμα, με τη δική μας δουλειά, με την έμπνευση που προσπαθούμε να δώσουμε, να κάνουμε στο προσωπικό μας. Προχωράμε. Εγώ θα σας πω 2-3 πράγματα τα οποία κάναμε για πρώτη φορά στο δημόσιο. Το πρώτο που κάναμε είναι ότι αξιολογήσαμε τους γενικούς διευθυντές μέσω ιδιωτικής εταιρείας. Δηλαδή, κάναμε ένα διαγωνισμό, βρήκαμε μια ιδιωτική εταιρεία η οποία αξιολογεί διεθνώς προσωπικό. Βρεθήκανε 52 υποψήφοι για 6 θέσεις. Περάσανε όλες εκείνες εκεί τις δοκιμασίες που γίνονται σε αυτές τις περιπτώσεις στον ιδιωτικό τομέα και τους πρώτους σε κάθε γενική διεύθυνση τους πρώτους επιτυχόντες, ας το πούμε, τους τοποθετήσαμε στην αντίστοιχη θέση. Δηλαδή, για πρώτη φορά πιστεύω στην ιστορία δεν έγινε καμία, ας την πούμε, κομματικοπολιτική τοποθέτηση, αλλά αξιοκρατική μέχρι εκεί που δεν παίρνει. Να σκεφτείτε ότι οι 2 από τους 6 είναι οι προηγούμενοι, της προηγούμενης κατάστασης. Έτσι, με ό,τι αυτό σημαίνει. Στη συνέχεια, είπαμε σε αυτούς τους γενικούς διευθυντές ότι όπως εσείς αξιολογηθήκατε με δικαιοσύνη, με κριτήρια τα οποία είχαμε βάλει, να κάνετε κι εσείς το ίδιο με τους διευθυντές σας. Και πιστεύω ότι το καταφέραμε πάρα πολύ, σε μεγάλο βαθμό. Δεν μπορώ να σας πω 100%. Και στη συνέχεια οι διευθυντές στους προϊσταμένους. Πιστεύω ότι πετύχαμε αρκετά σε αυτό το τομέα. Και είναι μία καινοτομία, έτσι, η οποία σήμερα μας βοηθάει πάρα πολύ στη δουλειά που κάνουμε. Το δεύτερο είναι ένα ζήτημα, ας πούμε, το οποίο αυτό θέλω να σας αναπτύξω λιγάκι. Το εξής. Κοιτάξτε, έχουμε 150 υπηρεσίες, οργανωτικές μονάδες, ας πούμε. Στην αρχή είχα βάλει πλάνο να πηγαίνω μία-μία, να τη ρωτάω, να μου λένε, να ελέγχω. Όπως καταλαβαίνετε, αυτό ήταν μια χρονοβόρα διαδικασία. Δηλαδή, 150 οργανωτικές μονάδες, πού να τις δεις. Θέλεις 2 χρόνια να τις δεις. Όταν μου προτάθηκε από συνεργάτη μου ότι υπάρχει ένα εργαλείο πληροφορικής μέσω του οποίου μπορούμε την παρακολούθηση, τον έλεγχο να το κάνουμε, αμέσως το πήραμε. Και έτσι έχουμε στα χέρια μας σήμερα ένα εργαλείο πληροφορικής, το οποίο το λέμε στοχοθεσία, ας πούμε. Φτιάξαμε και μία τέτοια υπηρεσία, η οποία μας επιτρέπει να ελέγχουμε πλήρως, να παρακολουθούμε πλήρως, να αξιολογούμε πλήρως, ανά πάσα στιγμή, να συγκρίνουμε οργανωτικές μονάδες μεταξύ τους, μέσα από ένα τέτοιο σύστημα το οποίο έχουμε. Αυτό το σύστημα το έχουμε εγκαθιδρύσει εδώ και περίπου 6 μήνες. Κάθε μήνα το επικαιροποιούμε. Δηλαδή, για να σας δώσω να καταλάβετε, βάλαμε τη γενική στρατηγική που έχει η επιχείρηση, η εταιρεία. Αυτή τη γενική στρατηγική, κάθε μία οργανωτική μονάδα την εξειδίκευσε στο χώρο της. Υπακούοντας σε αυτή τη στρατηγική επιλογή, έβαλε μόνη της τους στόχους. Και όταν λέω μόνη της, εννοώ το εξής. Ζητήσαμε, για παράδειγμα, έχουμε στην Αθήνα, είχαμε 600 διαρροές στόκ, καταλαβαίνετε από τη διαρροή, τρέχανε το νερό στον δρόμο. Λοιπόν, είπαμε ότι αυτό πρέπει να μειωθεί στο 0. Ωραία. Κάθε μία οργανωτική μονάδα έβαλε στόχο, πλάνο, μόνη της. Είπε, εγώ θα το κατορθώσω σε 10 μέρες. Εγώ θα το κατορθώσω σε 2 μήνες. Έτσι. Λοιπόν, ο λόγος που βάλαμε η κάθε μονάδα μόνη της ήταν για να μπορούμε μετά να είμαστε πιο, να πω τη φράση, αυστηροί στον έλεγχο. Να πούμε, μόνος σου είπες ότι θα το μειώσεις. Γιατί δεν το μείωσες? Αυτός ήταν ο σκοπός. Εν τέτοια περιπτώσει, λοιπόν, έχουν βάλει τους στόχους μόνοι τους και εμείς τους παρακολουθούμε. Βλέπουμε που υστερούν, ποια οργανωτική μονάδα τρέχει. Πιστεύω λοιπόν ότι είναι και αυτό μια καινοτομία πάρα πολύ σημαντική που και αυτή για πρώτη φορά έγινε στον δημόσιο τομέα. Να πω τα άλλα με ερωτήσεις και τα λοιπά για να μην βγάζω λόγους.
Όπως νομίζετε, απλώς να συνεχίσουμε και στον επόμενο ομιλητή.
Ωραία.
Να κάνει τη δική του τοποθέτηση και μετά να κάνουμε μία συζήτηση. Ποια είναι η εμπειρία, δηλαδή, ποια είναι η εμπειρία της επιχειρησιακής οργάνωσης σε δομές τοπικής αυτοδιοίκησης? Αυτά που κατά καιρούς ακούμε και μαθαίνουμε δείχνουν ακριβώς το αντίθετο, ότι δεν υπάρχει επιχειρησιακή οργάνωση.
Καταρχήν θα ήθελα να σας ευχαριστήσω για την σημερινή τιμητική πρόσκληση. Είναι γεγονός ότι η τοπική αυτοδιοίκηση είναι σε ένα, θα μπορούσε να πει, κρίσιμο σταυροδρόμι κανείς, κυρίως με την κατάσταση που έχει περιέλθει. Έχετε δίκιο ότι απ' έξω τουλάχιστον υπάρχει αυτή η εντύπωση ότι δεν είναι ιδιαίτερα αποδοτική και δεν μπορεί να αποδώσει στο μέτρο που επιθυμεί, το οποίο βέβαια είναι παράγοντας πολλών συνθήκων. Έχει να κάνει με την μείωση των πόρων που είναι διαθέσιμα στην τοπική αυτοδιοίκηση. Έχει να κάνει με το προσωπικό το οποίο λείπει, ίσως να μην λείπει πάντα σε απόλυτο αριθμό, αλλά σίγουρα λείπει σε εξειδίκευση. Δηλαδή, το πρόβλημα που αντιμετωπίζει συνήθως είναι στο μίξ των ανθρώπων, δεν είναι στον αριθμό των ανθρώπων. Βέβαια, από την άλλη, νομίζω ότι είναι στο χέρι κάθε δημοτικής αρχής, περιφερειακής αρχής, να κάνει πράγματα τα οποία έχουν λειτουργήσει και αποδίδουν. Δεν είναι σίγουρο ότι εφευρίσκουμε τον τροχό κάθε φορά σε οτιδήποτε προσπαθούμε να κάνουμε, αλλά νομίζω ότι το να χρησιμοποιείς πετυχημένα παραδείγματα και να βάζεις και τη δική σου πινελιά, γιατί όπως αντιλαμβανόμαστε όλοι, σε θέματα τοπικής αυτοδιοίκησης δεν υπάρχουν πάντοτε έτοιμες συνταγές, γιατί έχει να κάνει, είναι διαφορετικός ο Δήμος Αθηναίων λόγω του μεγέθους του, είναι διαφορετικός ο Δήμος Βρυλισσίων, που είναι ένας σχετικά μικρός δήμος, είναι διαφορετικό αν είσαι ένα νησί στη μέση του Αιγαίου. Όπως καταλαβαίνετε, δεν υπάρχει μια ενιαία αντιμετώπιση σε όλα αυτά τα πράγματα. Ο σκοπός μας από την αρχή ήταν, και λόγω του περιορισμού των πόρων, ο οποίος όμως πολλές φορές έκανε να σκέφτεσαι πιο έξυπνα, ήταν να ξεκινήσουμε από πράγματα τα οποία φαίνονται αυτονόητα, αλλά σπανίως γίνονται. Στη δική μας περίπτωση, ένα χαρακτηριστικό παράδειγμα είναι το κομμάτι της διαχείρισης των απορριμμάτων. Σε ένα δήμο, όσο πράσινος είμαστε εμείς, πράγμα που σημαίνει ότι έχουμε ένα πολύ μεγάλο ποσοστό κλαδεμάτων πρασίνων, τα οποία πήγαιναν στην χωματερή της φυλής, με το κόστος που σημαίνει αυτό για το Δήμο. Η επιλογή μας να πηγαίνουν στο ΕΜΑΚ της περιφέρειας σήμαινε αμέσως ότι είχαμε μια πολύ μεγάλη μείωση στο κόστος το οποίο ανταποκρινόταν στο Δήμο. Αντίστοιχα, ήμασταν από τους πρώτους που εφάρμοσαν διαλογή στην πηγή, χρησιμοποιώντας καφέ κάδους για τα οργανικά, κίτρινους κάδους πλέον χρησιμοποιούμε για το χαρτί, κόδωνες για το γυαλί, άρα προσπαθώντας να κάνουμε στην πράξη αυτό που γίνεται στις περισσότερες χώρες της Ευρώπης, για να μην χρησιμοποιήσω επιθετικούς προσδιορισμούς, για να το περιγράψω. Το σημαντικό είναι ότι ο Δημότης αντιλαμβάνεται τη διαφορά, γιατί φέτος, για δεύτερη συνεχόμενη χρονιά, έχουμε μείωση των δημοτικών τελών. Άρα, το αντιλαμβάνεται και από πρώτο χέρι, το αντιλαμβάνεται στην τσέπη του, γιατί και στην εποχή της κρίσης είναι σημαντικό να αντιλαμβάνεται ότι αυτό γυρίζει σε εκείνον, ότι η συμμετοχή του σε αυτή την προσπάθεια που έχουμε κάνει, που είναι πρωτοπόρα τουλάχιστον για τα δεδομένα των Δήμων, στην κλίμακα τουλάχιστον που το εφαρμόζουμε εμείς, έχει άμεσο αντίκτυπο και στο οικονομικό.
Άρα η αύξηση της αποτελεσματικότητας,
σωστά.
η εξοικονόμηση του κόστους έφερε και μια αύξηση αποτελεσματικότητας.
Ακριβώς. Και ανταπόδοση προς τον Δημότη. Το σημαντικό είναι ότι σε οτιδήποτε κάνουμε, εξερευνούμε όλες τις δυνατότητες. Υπόθηκε και από τους προηγούμενους ομιλητές ότι όλα είναι θέμα ομάδας. Υπάρχουν πράγματα που μπορείς να κάνεις μόνος σου, με τους εργαζόμενους του Δήμου, οι οποίοι πραγματικά έχουν παίξει πάρα πολύ σημαντικό ρόλο σε όλες τις προσπάθειες που έχουμε κάνει και στη διαλογή και στον τομέα της διαχείρισης των απορριμμάτων, αλλά και σε πολλές άλλες δράσεις που κάνουμε. Αλλά έχει να κάνει και με την συμμετοχή μας σε ευρωπαϊκά προγράμματα, στην προσπάθειά μας να χρησιμοποιήσουμε χρήματα που είναι διαθέσιμα είτε από την περιφέρεια για μεγάλα έργα, τα οποία, όπως αντιλαμβάνεται κανείς, ξεπερνούν έναν στενό ορίζοντα προγραμματισμού ενός Δήμου. Δηλαδή, είναι πολύ μεγάλο το ποσό που αντιστοιχεί σε σχέση με τον budget του, με τον προπολογισμό του. Και το σημαντικό είναι ότι συνεχίζουμε να παίρνουμε ευρωπαϊκά προγράμματα που νομίζω ότι, τουλάχιστον για το Δήμο Βρυλισσίων και για το μέγεθός του, δείχνει ότι έχουμε περάσει ένα μήνυμα ότι είμαστε ένας σοβαρός συνομιλητής, ο οποίος μπορεί να φέρνει σε πέρας τα έργα που αναλαμβάνει και τη χρηματοδότηση που αντιστοιχεί σε αυτά. Είναι προφανές ότι όλα γίνονται για να εξυπηρετήσουν το Δημότη. Δηλαδή, ο σκοπός είναι ήδη έχουμε προχωρήσει σε πάρα πολλές ενέργειες για να κάνουμε πολύ πιο εύκολη τη ζωή του. Εδώ πρέπει να λάβουμε υπόψη μας ότι για τα δεδομένα του κεντρικού άξονα της Αττικής είμαστε μια ελαφρώς ιδιάζουσα περίπτωση, γιατί έχουμε δικό μας δίκτυο ίδρευσης. Οπότε είμαστε υπεύθυνοι και για το κομμάτι της ίδρευσης, πράγμα το οποίο κάνει τη ζωή μας ελαφρώς πιο δύσκολη και οικονομικά αλλά και διαχειριστικά έναντι των δημοτών. Και εκεί κάνουμε προσπάθειες για τα δικά μας μικρά μεγέθη να γίνουμε ίσως και λίγο πιο έξυπνοι από την ΕΙΔΑΠ, αλλά δεν θα πρέπει να το λέω με τον κύριο Μπενίση δίπλα μου.
Ναι, θα ανταγωνιστείτε.
Προσπαθούμε να κάνουμε και εκεί όσο το δυνατόν την καλύτερη προσπάθεια. Και βεβαίως, όπως ξαναείπα, και ο ιδιωτικός τομέας έχει να παίξει ένα σημαντικό ρόλο, γιατί έρχεται να καλύψει κενά και να βοηθήσει είτε σε οικονομικό επίπεδο, είτε σε τεχνικό επίπεδο, είτε σε επίπεδο διαχείρισης, κενά τα οποία είναι προφανώς ότι αντιμετωπίζουμε όλοι μας σε επίπεδο Δήμων.
Θα ήθελα να μείνουμε λίγο στο κομμάτι της συνεργασίας του ιδιωτικού με το δημόσιο τομέα σε πολλά επίπεδα. Ο κ. Μπενής καταρχάς έφερε ένα παράδειγμα ότι προκειμένου να αξιολογήσει τους βασικούς διευθυντές, τους βασικούς επικεφαλείς του οργανισμού, χρησιμοποίησε την αυτονόητη λύση ενός τρίτου εκτιμητή, ανεξάρτητου και ιδιώτη. Φαντάζομαι ότι υπάρχουν και άλλα τέτοια παραδείγματα, είτε σε επίπεδο τοπικής αυτοδιοίκησης, είτε μέσα στον οργανισμό μιας δημόσιας επιχείρησης. Θα ήθελα λίγο να μου πείτε ποιες είναι οι δυνατότητες αυτών των συνεργασιών σε ένα περιβάλλον όπου οι συμπράξεις, είτε με τη μορφή την θεσμοθετημένη, είτε με τα ΣΔΙΤ, είτε με οποιοδήποτε άλλο τρόπο, είτε με νέους εφάνταστους τρόπους, αρχίζουν να γίνονται αποδεκτές και από τους οργανισμούς. Δηλαδή, φαντάζομαι ότι είναι περισσότερο ευεπίφοροι σε τέτοιου είδους συνεργασίες, αλλά και από τους ιδιώτες που αισθάνονται ότι υπάρχουν πεδία συνεργασίας. Πώς βλέπετε να εξελίσσεται στο μέλλον αυτό?
Μάλιστα. Κοιτάξτε, δεν είναι μία απλή διαδικασία. Να σας πω ένα πράγμα, το που μας έχει απασχολήσει πάρα πολύ. Δίνουμε την καθαριότητα μέσω μιας εργολαβίας σε έναν ιδιώτη. Να τα πούμε ξεκάθαρα τα πράγματα. έρχονται και δουλεύουν καθαρίστριες με 200-300 ευρώ το μήνα σαν σκλάβες. Και βγαίνει ο ιδιώτης και λέει, ο εργολάβος μου κοστίζει φτηνά. Εδώ, σας είπα, είμαστε δημόσιο, κοινοφελής και επιχείρηση. Από την άλλη όμως, δεν μπορούμε να έχουμε εργαζόμενους σκλάβους των 200 και 300 ευρώ. Να σας πω και από οικονομική σκοπιά, τι θα ψωνίσει αυτή η γυναίκα με τα 200-300 ευρώ το μήνα. Πώς θα κινηθεί η οικονομία όταν η συγκεκριμένη γυναίκα δουλεύει για 200-300 ευρώ. Πώς θα αναπτυχθεί η χώρα. Σας λέω λοιπόν το εξής, ότι ανεξάρτητα από το κέρδος, διότι και το κέρδος, να το δούμε, είναι σχετικό. Εμείς πρέπει να βλέπουμε και άλλους παράγοντες για να κάνουμε αυτή ή την άλλη κίνηση. Έτσι, και δεν το λέω ιδεολειπτικά, διότι το ζητούμενο δεν είναι να έχουμε στη χώρα μας μισθούς των 200 ευρώ. Έτσι, πρέπει να έχουμε μια χώρα στην οποία να παράγεται πλούτος, βεβαίως να παράγεται ο πλούτος, αλλά και οι εργαζόμενοι να αμείβονται. Έτσι λοιπόν είμαστε αρκετά προσεκτικοί σε όλες αυτές τις συνεργασίες με τους ιδιώτες. Έτσι. Μπορώ να πω όμως ότι η γυτνίαση με αυτούς μας βοηθάει ώστε και εμείς κάποιες, πώς να το πω, κάποιες παρενέργειες και εφησυχασμούς κτλ. Να τις διορθώνουμε.
Φαντάζομαι ότι στο πλαίσιο της δεοντολογίας που έχει η επιχείρηση, κάποιες συνεργασίες θα τις ξαναμετρά και θα τις απορρίπτει. Το θέμα είναι αν αυτό που περιγράψατε, αν ο συγχρονισμός ή οι νέες προκλήσεις επιχειρησιακές που μπορεί να έχει η ΕΙΔΑΠ σας φέρνει κοντά με τον ιδιωτικό τομέα, είτε σε επίπεδο συνεργασίας, είτε σε επίπεδο υιοθέτησης κάποιων πρακτικών. Δηλαδή, αν έχουν υιοθετηθεί πρακτικές αυτού που παλιά λέγαμε ιδιωτικο-οικονομικού τομέα.
Να σας πω ένα παράδειγμα. Πέστε ότι είμαι ο διευθύνων σύμβουλος μιας ιδιωτικής εταιρείας, επιχείρησης. Και θέλω αυτό από εδώ να το πω εκεί. Φωνάζω λοιπόν και λέω πάρω το αυτό και πήγαινε το εκεί. Στο δημόσιο, για να πω πάρω αυτό και πήγαινε το εκεί, θέλω 6 μήνες. Θέλετε να σας πω τι, καταλαβαίνετε, έτσι σχηματικά δεν λέω αυτό και προσέξτε. Πρέπει να βγει διαγωνισμός. Για να βγει ο διαγωνισμός πρέπει να περάσει από το Διοικητικό Συμβούλιο. Αφού περάσει από το Διοικητικό Συμβούλιο, και γίνει ο διαγωνισμός, οι τεχνικές, εάν έχουν περάσει οι διαγωνιζόμενοι, το τεχνικό κομμάτι ξαναπερνάει. Μετά από το διοικητικό, μετά τα οικονομικά, το οικονομικό σκέλος του διαγωνισμού ξαναπερνάει από το διοικητικό. Και μετά η τελική σύμβαση ξαναπερνάει από το Διοικητικό Συμβούλιο. Μετά πρέπει να πάει στο ελεκτικό συνέδριο και λοιπά. Όπως καταλαβαίνετε, για να μην μιλάω ώρα, θέλουμε 6-7 μήνες. Να σας πω κάτι. Θέλουμε να φτιάξουμε ένα κέντρο επεξεργασίας λιμάτων στην Ανατολική Αττική. Ξέρετε πόσο θέλουμε? 12 χρόνια. Με τις αδειοδοτήσεις, με τις διαδικασίες. Άρα καταλαβαίνει κάποιος ότι εμείς για να γίνουμε αποτελεσματικοί και αποδοτικοί θα πρέπει και κάποιες διεργασίες να τις συντμίσουμε. Αλλά αυτό έρχεται κόντρα με τη διαφάνεια και τη διάβγεια. Διότι το κράτος, το δημόσιο, η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση λέει το εξής πράγμα. Πρόσεξε, να έχουμε μεν αποτελεσματικότητα, αλλά να έχουμε και διαφάνεια, διάβγεια. Που σημαίνει, ας πούμε για παράδειγμα, 56 μέρες να περιμένεις να είναι στον αέρα ο διαγωνισμός. Όλα αυτά πρέπει να καταλαβαίνουμε ότι είναι τροχοπέδι στην αποτελεσματικότητα. Γι' αυτό πολλές φορές δεν μπορούμε να κάνουμε συγκρίσεις του ιδιωτικού με το δημόσιο τομέα. Έχει τα καλά το ιδιωτικός, έχει και ο δημόσιος. Και το στίχημα που σας είχα πει στην αρχή ήταν το εξής. Εγώ από τις πρώτες μέρες συνειδητοποίησα ότι ιδιωτικός έχει τα καλά του και τα κακά του που λέμε, ο δημόσιος το ίδιο. Ωραία. Στην πράξη τι γίνεται? Παίρνουμε πτώματα του δημοσίου και του ιδιωτικού. Ο σκοπός είναι, και αυτή είναι η δουλειά ενός σωστού, ας πούμε, management, πια να το αντιστρέψει, να πάρει τα καλά του ιδιωτικού και τα καλά του δημοσίου.
Εν ώψη της ιδιωτικοποίησης σε ΕΙΔΑΠ, πιστεύετε ότι αυτό παραμένοντας ωστόσο μία ΔΕΚΟ?
Συγγνώμη, δεν υπάρχει ιδιωτικοποίηση σε ΕΙΔΑΠ. Ποιος το λέει αυτό?
Δεν υπάρχει.
Ότι γράφονται, μισό λεπτό, και είναι ευκαιρία να τα πούμε. Δεν υπάρχει καμία ιδιωτικοποίηση σε ΕΙΔΑΠ. Πού το είδατε? Το ότι γράφει ο καθένας ότι θα γίνει εκείνο και γίνει το άλλο, δεν υπάρχει καμία. Υπάρχει απόφαση του Συμβουλίου Επικρατείας, η οποία λέει το 50% παραμένει στα χέρια του δημοσίου. Η εποπτεία και ο έλεγχος του management στα χέρια του δημοσίου. Άρα λοιπόν δεν υπάρχει καμία ιδιωτικοποίηση. Δηλαδή λέγονται θα ιδιωτικοποιηθεί. Σας διαβεβαιώνω δεν υπάρχει καμία. Επίσης, δεν σ' άκουσα. Αυτό σημαίνει ιδιωτικοποίηση. Εγώ ξέρω με τα ελληνικά μου ότι η ιδιωτικοποίηση είναι πάνω από το 50. Όταν το 50 το έχει το management ο ισχυρός, η διασπορά του υπόλοιπου 49 μικρή σημασία έχει. Εγώ αυτά καταλαβαίνω. Εάν νομίζετε ότι από τους νόμους που διέπουν μια ανώνυμη εταιρεία ισχύει κάτι διαφορετικό, εδώ είμαι να το συζητήσω. Αλλά εγώ αυτά ξέρω.
Εγώ δεν ήθελα να θέσω ένα πολιτικό θέμα.
Δεν είναι
αυτό
πολιτικό.
Που ξέρουμε...
Να σας πω κάτι. Δεν είναι πολιτικό. Αν ήθελα να πω πολιτικά, θα σας έλεγα ότι η σημερινή κυβέρνηση το βάζει στο Σύνταγμα. Στο Σύνταγμα, που στη συνταγματική αναθεώρηση λέει ότι το νερό, η διαχείριση του νερού να είναι στα χέρια του δημοσίου. Αλλά δεν συζητάμε αυτή τη στιγμή αυτό το πράγμα. Έτσι, η ιδιωτικοποίηση.
Καθόλου. Και εγώ άλλο ήθελα να ρωτήσω. Αυτό που ήθελα να ρωτήσω, ας επαναλάβω με καλύτερη διατύπωση αυτό που ήθελα να πω. Στην παραπάνω μετοχοποίηση, λοιπόν, γιατί η εταιρεία είναι μετοχοποιημένη, έχει ξένους στρατηγικούς επενδυτές και μικροεπενδυτές, εφόσον είναι εισηγμένοι στο χρηματιστήριο και έχει την αντίστοιχη διασπορά, αν αυτό επισπεύδει την προσαρμογή της. Περιγράψατε ορισμένα πράγματα που σαφώς έχουν να κάνουν με τον τρόπο που λειτουργεί το ελληνικό δημόσιο και αν αλλάξουν, θα αλλάξουν συνολικά, δεν θα αλλάξουν μόνο για την ΕΙΔΑΠ. Αν θεωρείτε ότι η παραπάνω μετοχοποίηση δίνει ένα βαθμό ιδιωτικής πρωτοβουλίας στην ΕΙΔΑΠ.
Ναι, με την έννοια που το βάζετε στην ερώτηση θα συμφωνήσω στο εξής. Αυτή η μετοχοποίηση του 49% μας αναγκάζει να κάνουμε κάποιες κινήσεις που πιστεύω ότι είναι προς όφελος όλων, και του βασικού μετόχου και των μικρομετόχων. Υπ' αυτή την έννοια, λοιπόν, το ότι, να πω σε εισαγωγικά, δεν είμαστε ανεξέλεγκτοι, έτσι, και ως διοίκηση της επιχείρησης εκπροσωπούμε και τους, όπως τους είπατε, μικρομετόχους, είμαστε υποχρεωμένοι να μεριμνήσουμε και για το δικό τους, να το πω έτσι απλά, καλό. Έτσι δεν είναι? Πράγματι, η εταιρεία προσπαθεί, εξορθολογίζει τις δαπάνες της, προσέχει ώστε να έχει κέρδη, δίνει ένα πάρα πολύ καλό μέρισμα στους μετόχους όλα αυτά τα χρόνια και πιστεύω ότι τους έχει αρκετά ικανοποιημένους σε σχέση με αυτά τα οποία γίνονται διεθνώς αλλά και στην Ελλάδα. Οι μέτοχοί μας πήρανε μέρισμα ακόμα και τα δύσκολα χρόνια και πολύ καλό μέρισμα. Πάρα πολύ καλή μερισματική απόδοση είχανε τα τελευταία χρόνια.
Επειδή η ΕΙΔΑΠ βεβαίως είναι μια επιχείρηση και άρα την ενδιαφέρει το κέρδος, αλλά να περάσουμε και στο Δήμο που κινείται με τη λογική της διαχείρισης του κόστους σε ένα επίπεδο ανεκτό και να φέρει την ωφελημότητα προς τους δημότες. Για όλους αυτούς τους μετασχηματισμούς, μικρούς, μεγάλους, στα όρια και τις υποχρεώσεις που έχει ο Δήμος, πώς μπορείτε να αξιοποιήσετε ήδη υπάρχουσες υποδομές, ενδεχομένως να μπορείτε να δημιουργήσετε συνέργειες ή να εξασφαλίσετε επιπλέον πόρους που είναι αναγκαίοι για την ανάπτυξη των δραστηριοτήτων του?
Η Η εξέβρεση πόρων μπορεί να γίνει με δύο τρόπους. Ο ένας είναι εξοικονομώντας και άρα ρίχνοντάς το πάλι, επενδύοντας. Και ο δεύτερος είναι πόροι που μπορούν να έρθουν από τον ιδιωτικό τομέα, απ' έξω, εκτός του Δήμου. Ένα χαρακτηριστικό παράδειγμα, νομίζω ότι έχει αρχίσει να δημιουργείται και το σχετικό trend σε όλους τους Δήμους, είναι το θέμα του οδοφωτισμού. Δηλαδή, η λογική που λέει ότι με κάποιον συμπαίχτη, με έναν partner από τον εξωτερικό, από τον ιδιωτικό τομέα, έρχομαι και όχι μόνο αναβαθμίζω ενεργειακά, που είναι ένα από τα βασικά ζητούμενα, δηλαδή ότι μειώνω το ενεργειακό μου αποτύπωμα, αλλά από την άλλη εξοικονομώ και το ενεργειακό κόστος που σε πολλές περιπτώσεις είναι δυσβάσταχτο. Για έναν μικρομεσαίο δήμο όπως είμαστε εμείς είναι αρκετά μεγάλο, αλλά υπάρχουν δήμοι οι οποίοι έχουν και πολύ μεγαλύτερη έκταση σε σχέση με εμάς που είμαστε από τους μικρότερους, σε έκταση τουλάχιστον, και άρα αυτό δίνει ένα μήνυμα. Εκεί να πούμε, και για να συνεχίσω αυτό που ορθά τοποθέτησε προηγουμένως ο κύριος Μπενίσης, εκεί πάλι σημασία έχει και ο τρόπος με τον οποίο το κάνεις. Εμάς είναι συνειδητή η επιλογή μας η σύμπραξη με τον ιδιωτικό τομέα να γίνει μόνο στο κομμάτι της προμήθειας. Άρα, ο ανάδοχος του έργου του οδοφωτισμού για το Δήμο Βρυλισσίων θα έχει υπό την ευθύνη του μόνο το κομμάτι της προμήθειας και όλο το κομμάτι της αντικατάστασης και της συντήρησης θα γίνεται από δικούς μας πόρους. Στη δική μας περίπτωση, αυτό είναι κάτι που μπορεί να λειτουργήσει, είναι μετρημένο, ξέρουμε ότι μπορούμε να ανταποκριθούμε, δηλαδή δεν ήταν δεν προέκυψε ως μια απόφαση της στιγμής. Και το σημαντικό είναι ότι είναι από τα έργα τα οποία ουσιαστικά βγάζουν τα χρήματα από μόνα τους, καθώς ο ανάδοχος πληρώνεται από την εξοικονόμηση. Άρα, ουσιαστικά, για το Δήμο, ο Δήμος δεν έχει να εκταμιεύσει χρήματα. Αυτό νομίζω είναι ένα χαρακτηριστικό παράδειγμα. Δεν είμαστε πρωτοπόροι, είναι και άλλοι Δήμοι που τρέχουν αυτή τη στιγμή τις αντίστοιχες διαδικασίες, αλλά νομίζω είναι ενδεικτικό του μίξ. Άρα, το πόσο ο ιδιωτικός τομέας μπορεί να εισφέρει χρήμα στο Δήμο, ο οποίος από την άλλη μπορεί να προχωρήσει στην εξοικονόμηση. Υπάρχουν πολλά παραδείγματα σε μικρή ή μεγάλη κλίμακα και βεβαίως υπάρχει και ένα πολύ μεγάλο κομμάτι, το οποίο εδώ οφείλω να το πω, που έχει να κάνει, βρίσκεται στο μέσο του δημόσιου και του ιδιωτικού τομέα, που έχει να κάνει λίγο και με το κομμάτι του εθελοντισμού. Στο κομμάτι του ΟΝΟΤΑ αυτό είναι πολύ σημαντικό. Δηλαδή, είτε σε προσωπικό επίπεδο, σε επίπεδο φυσικού προσώπου, αλλά και σε επίπεδο οργανισμών, εταιριών, έχει καλλιεργηθεί τα τελευταία χρόνια, νομίζω, μια ευρύτερη κουλτούρα συμμετοχής και συνεργασίας, η οποία αποδίδει γιατί ουσιαστικά δημιουργεί αυτή την κρίσιμη μάζα, η οποία μπορεί να κάνει τη διαφορά σε δομές που υπό άλλες συνθήκες θα ήταν και υποστελεχωμένες και θα είχαν και έλλειμμα οικονομικών πόρων. Άρα, νομίζω ότι είναι στο χέρι όλων, ανάλογα με τις ανάγκες του. Δηλαδή, είναι προφανές ότι υπάρχουν δήμοι οι οποίοι έχουν μεγαλύτερη ανάγκη για εξωστρέφεια, για τουρισμό. Εμείς δεν είμαστε ένας από αυτούς. Αλλά σε μια τέτοια περίπτωση είναι προφανές ότι υπάρχουν τα αντίστοιχα κανάλια ή αντίστοιχοι ενδιαφερόμενοι, οι οποίοι μπορούν να εισφέρουν με τον προσφορότερο δυνατό τρόπο και σε κάθε περίπτωση να βοηθήσουν την τοπική αυτοδιοίκηση.
Θα ήθελα τώρα ένα σχόλιο και από τους δύο, ως μια καταληκτική τοποθέτηση, δεδομένου ότι ο χρόνος έχει κυλήσει λίγο παραπάνω από ό,τι είχε αρχικώς προγραμματιστεί. Σε ένα περιβάλλον ισορροπίας. Εισερχόμαστε, βάσει όλων των στοιχείων που έχουμε, εισερχόμαστε σε ένα περιβάλλον ισορροπίας. Εννοώ σε ό,τι αφορά τις μακροοικονομικές περιπέτειες της χώρας. Ποιες ευκαιρίες βλέπετε σε επίπεδο ανάπτυξης τόσο της ΕΙΔΑΠ ή του ευρύτερου δημόσιου τομέα και πώς βλέπετε τις ευκαιρίες ανάπτυξης των ΟΤΑ?
Καταρχήν, κοιτάξτε, η ΕΙΔΑΠ μπορούμε να πούμε ότι είναι ένα φυσικό μονοπόλιο. Δηλαδή δεν έχει ανταγωνιστεί στο χώρο στον οποίο κινείται εδώ στην Αττική. Η ανάπτυξη της ΕΙΔΑΠ είναι να εξυπηρετήσει καλύτερα τον πολίτη. Δηλαδή, να βελτιώνεται συνεχώς ποιοτικά. Για παράδειγμα, έχουμε βάλει κάποιους στόχους. Ξέρω εγώ, πρώτα-πρώτα, ο πολίτης να εξυπηρετείται ηλεκτρονικά. να σταματήσουμε ακόμα και να στέλνουμε λογαριασμούς. Τα πάντα να γίνονται με τέτοιο τρόπο, ώστε ο πολίτης, έτσι, αυτό εμείς το θεωρούμε ανάπτυξη. Ανάπτυξη θεωρούμε ότι σε κάποιες περιοχές της Αττικής που δεν υπάρχει αποχέτευση, να τη φτιάξουμε. Ανάπτυξη θεωρούμε σε κάποια νησιά εδώ που είναι της δικής μας αρμοδιότητας να πάμε νερό. Αυτά τα έχουμε βάλει σε ένα πλάνο και έχουμε το επόμενο πενταετές πλάνο, το οποίο είναι περίπου 1 δις. Δηλαδή το επενδυτικό μας. Έτσι. Αλλά το επενδυτικό με την έννοια μιας ιδιωτικής επιχείρησης, δηλαδή ότι θα φέρει άμεσα κέρδη, δεν μπορεί να υπάρξει σε μια τέτοια εταιρεία. Εμείς είμαστε μια εταιρεία η οποία τα κέρδη της έρχονται στο μέλλον. Είναι όχι άμεσα. Έτσι λοιπόν αυτό το θέμα, έτσι βλέπουμε λοιπόν την ανάπτυξη της εταιρείας.
Σε ό,τι αφορά και οι Δήμοι προφανώς δεν πρόκειται να γίνουν Google, δεν εννοώ αυτό. Εννοώ το πώς μέσα σε ένα περιβάλλον που τα πράγματα αρχίζουν να εξισορροπούνται, αν βλέπετε ότι μπορεί να υπάρξουν νέες συνεργασίες, διαδημοτικές ενδεχομένως, ή να παίξει ένα ρόλο, γιατί και οι βαθμοί τοπικής αυτοδιοίκησης επίσης αυξάνουν. Αν μπορεί να παίξει ένα ρόλο πιο ενεργό.
Υποθέτω ότι θεωρώντας ότι εξερχόμαστε της κρίσης, αυτό μπορεί να δώσει τη δυνατότητα μιας λίγο μεγαλύτερης απόδοσης πόρων προς τους Δήμους. Να πούμε την αλήθεια ότι βέβαια με κάποιο τρόπο πρέπει και οι Δήμοι να αποδεικνύουν, είναι λίγο αιρετικό τώρα αυτό, ότι μπορούν να διαχειριστούν και να πιάσουν τόπο τα χρήματα τα οποία διαχειριζόνται. Για να είμαι δίκαιος, βέβαια, πρέπει να πούμε ότι πάντα δεν είναι στο χέρι τους. Υπάρχουν και παράγοντες που επηρεάζουν όλες αυτές τις διαδικασίες, οι οποίες δεν είναι πάντα πολύ ξεκάθαρες και προφανείς. Το επόμενο βήμα είναι, τουλάχιστον για τον πρώτο βαθμό, το δικό μας, υπάρχουν πράγματα τα οποία ξεπερνούν το επίπεδο ενός Δήμου, και άρα λύνονται με διαδημοτικές ή ουσιαστικά με συνεργασία με το δεύτερο βαθμό, με την περιφέρεια στη δική μας περίπτωση. Νομίζω ότι εκεί είναι ένα στίχημα που πρέπει να δοθεί και να κερδιθεί. Υπάρχουν αρκετά πράγματα που μπορούν να γίνουν. Παράλληλα, ένα στίχημα που συνεχίζει, μια πρόκληση που συνεχίζει είναι ότι ο Δήμος πρέπει να συνεχίσει να δίνει καλύτερες υπηρεσίες προς τους δημότες του, ο καθένας με τον τρόπο που μπορεί και στο κομμάτι που του αντιστοιχεί. Αυτό, στη δική μας περίπτωση, ευελπιστούμε ότι επειδή τρέχουμε και δράσεις που έχουν να κάνουν με τη λογική της υποστήριξης νέων επιχειρηματιών, μια προσπάθεια να βοηθήσουμε ανθρώπους οι οποίοι έχουν χτυπηθεί από την κρίση να κάνουν βήματα παραπάνω. Θεωρώ ότι αυτό θα μπορέσει να ευοδοθεί σε ένα πιο αισιόδοξο οικονομικό κλίμα, το οποίο μπορεί να τους βοηθήσει να κάνουν αυτό το βήμα παραπάνω. Εμείς το δοκιμάζουμε την περίοδο της κρίσης και γνωρίζουμε ότι είναι λίγο δύσκολο να ευοδοθεί όσο η κατάσταση είναι δύσκολη, αλλά υπό το πρίσμα που το θέσατε και βλέπουμε, θεωρούμε ότι είναι κάτι το οποίο θα φέρει αποτελέσματα και θα μας κάνει και εμάς περήφανος και για τη δράση μας, αλλά και για τους ανθρώπους οι οποίοι εμπιστεύονται αυτές τις διαδικασίες και προσπαθούν με τον τρόπο τους να αλλάξουν τη ζωή τους.
Ωραία. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ. Να ελευθερώσουμε για τον επόμενο.
Αφού ευχαριστήσω την κυρία Κούτρα για την υπομονή της και για τον τρόπο με τον οποίο χειρίστηκε το πάνελ και ευχαριστήσω και τον κύριο Μπενίση αλλά και τον κύριο Βαφιάδη, νομίζω ότι είχαμε την δυνατότητα να δούμε δύο ανθρώπους οι οποίοι, ας μου επιτραπεί η αξιολογική τοποθέτηση, οι οποίοι δουλεύοντας στον δημόσιο, στον ευρύτερο δημόσιο τομέα, ο ένας μάλιστα σε μια εταιρεία που, όπως είπε, είναι ένα φυσικό μονοπόλιο, άρα έτσι κι αλλιώς δεν έχει ανταγωνισμό, ο οποίος όμως έχει πλήρη επίγνωση στο πώς δουλεύει η ιδιωτική οικονομία, διότι αν κάποιος δει το βιογραφικό του θα δει ότι μόνον με την ιδιωτική οικονομία είχε μέχρι πρόσφατα να κάνει ο κύριος Μπενίσης. Είδαμε όμως με ποιο τρόπο μπορεί το project management, με ποιο τρόπο μπορούν τα διάφορα διοικητικά skills μέσα από τα οποία έρχεται και το project management να βοηθήσουν στο έργο τους. Θέλω να τους ευχαριστήσω και τους δύο για τη συνεισφορά τους. Τώρα πάμε σε έναν ιδιαίτερο μιλητή. Now we will switch to another special speaker. Mr. David Carr is the bad guy. As you know, we try over the last years to transform our economy in, let's say, in a little bit more developed way of thinking and of acting. Mr. Carr is the guy who is responsible for the International Monetary Fund in Greece to help us to transform us in a better conditions. Mr. Carr, the floor is yours.
Καλημέρα. Είναι δύσκολο να κάνεις ριζικές αλλαγές. Το διαπίστωσα προσπαθώντας να αλλάξω το επίπεδο των ελληνικών μου. Και τώρα στα αγγλικά. Now, those who know me know getting even 2 words of Greek out is quite an achievement. And in transformational change terms, I've absolutely failed. But for project managers, there's never that kind of excuse. I mean, my excuse is simply that it keeps the Greek economy and the translator services going. It's a fantastic excuse, but you don't have that kind of fallback when you're doing project management. So, let's just talk a little bit about transformational change. Now, I realise there's 2 other things here. First of all, it's nearly lunchtime. Secondly, you've been sitting around here very sort of static. So let's just think about this. But the other thing really is I've not got any entertaining slides here. Now this is deliberate because I looked at all my kit of stuff and I thought, well, they're just very distracting. What we really needed to talk about is real experience. So I'm just going to tell you things that I've learned over the years. Now this isn't an IMF kind of standard presentation because they don't do that. This is what I've learned from a long time in the UK public sector and also working subsequently trying to do similar things in Asia and here, transforming things. And all I do know is it's very hard. So all of you guys trying to do this stuff, you know, I feel for you. So, as I say, boring slides. Now I started doing serious changes 20 years ago, I think now, yes, when we introduced the first large taxpayer office in the UK. And at that time, I think there was only one other in the world. Everybody has them now, but at that time we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't really know a lot about project management, actually. We were still using project management skills in a very, very basic way. And we were only learning about all the other things that you actually need beyond the basic organisational skills. So some of this is about that, but also other things we've learned. So, and a lot of this actually will relate to things Mark was saying earlier about, you know, things you know from the past, people focusing on actually making things happen quickly so you get a result, not spending forever inspecting the detail and worrying it's not quite right. You never get there. So, right. There's probably a thing I'm supposed to, there it is, right. Not only have I forgotten my Greek, I've forgotten the buzzer thing. Right. So, I'm going to start with a statement of the obvious, actually. Here we are. You know this. But what it's really about is actually, it's all this question about delivering new capability. And The real difference with the public sector is that much of that capability is about changing people, attitudes and culture, as all of those other physical things around IT and all the things that actually happen in the processes. And that's the really hard thing to do with a lot of the public sector, because it's often this sense of, you know, status quo, things are stable, people don't want to change. So that's the thing. And the other thing you all know, because you're all project managers and you see this all the time, is lots and lots of these things fail. And there are lots and lots of studies about it. But the one thing I've noticed over the years that really is something that's consistently the case with things going wrong is it's all about leadership. There's nobody really taking it seriously. And that's right across the piece. It's not just the people at the top, it's actually even the project managers. You know, they've got to be leaders. They've got to make you want to do it. They've got to understand what's needed. Project management, we know about management, you know, it's all those details, following processes, tick, 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 tick. The leadership bit is something extra. It's giving people that sense of direction, you know, encouraging them, actually noticing what's missing and making sure you fill that void. Some of that, of course, maybe like Mark's saying, go back and look what's happened before, because somebody's probably done it before. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. So that's the kind of thing. So it's this idea that it's not somebody else's job. Yeah, other people have got to take a responsibility for leadership, but as project managers, you've got to be out there doing it and making sure everybody else knows their role. So let's have a look at a little bit of background on this, actually, and compare and contrast. Now, I came here 18 months ago. I was dropped in here. I wasn't expecting to come here. I'd been working in Asia. The guy who was here before me was ill. Quickly a replacement. So suddenly, oh, very nice, actually. Athens is a fantastic place to be compared with where I've worked before. I couldn't have asked for a better place. And actually, I couldn't have asked for a better team. But the thing is, when I came here as well, they all said to me, nah, it's going to be trouble. You know, projects never happen on time. Everything's always delayed. Things don't get done. That's the way it is. You know, it's Greece. So, a bit of a surprise, really. The job was basically to support the team here to introduce the new RDA, the Independent Agency for Public Revenue. So I appeared, what was it, end of April. The law was passed somewhere around the end of May last year, and this was all meant to be up and running by the 1st of January of this year. Okay? And of course, everybody's going, no, it's not going to happen. You can see they've even built in some delay clauses in here somewhere. If you look at the law carefully, there was a 2-month handover period for a few things. But no, it all happened on time. It worked. Huge, great job to do. I mean, if I was saying this in the UK public sector, we wouldn't have attempted it in that time frame. We would have spent longer over it. But it was done. And how was it done? Well, it was done because there were a lot of people here who are capable project managers, people who could do it. It's just they were hidden, buried around the place. So, you know, the skills are there. But there were a lot of things to do with it. And again, many things you don't think are possible. I mean, there were lots of big tasks. Anybody else would say on their own, there are separate projects of quite some difficulty. Now, one of the big things was actually you had to select the whole top management cadre. Now, again, it sounds easy, you know, because assuming you've already got a selection process, people know how to do the selection, all those things, easy task. You know, we did it in the UK over probably about a 12-month period when the UK Tax Administration and Customs Administration were merged. There was a big selection process that all went on. That was using processes and things that were already developed, people knowing what they were doing. What was here? No process, no trained people. So all of this had to be done. There wasn't anything you could pick up off the shelf, it had to be built and done. Similarly, a finance department. You know, I think it's easy. There's lots of finance departments around here. Well, actually, it's not so easy to go and copy what they do when things aren't documented the way you expect them. So you've essentially got to do all that as well. So, and so on. So there are lots and lots of things to do, but they were all done. And most of this was just down to the fact that actually the team were open to new ideas. They took a bit of persuading sometimes, and sometimes you had to let things fail a bit for them to realise the way they thought they would do them were not the right way of doing them. It's not a case of coming in and saying, do it this way, it's the only way. Because they say, okay, we know how to do this. Okay, we'll give it a try. Even though you know, this may not work. Give it a little bit of time just to see, build a bit of contingency in for it, but let it happen that way. So again, that was it. The biggest problem actually was not around the fact that, say, the skills weren't there. The skills were there, people wanting to do things, open to ideas. People were working really quickly, things were getting done well. The biggest enemy here, if anything, is the old-fashioned bureaucracy and actually a real aversion to the tiniest risks. You know, the big risk called this thing won't happen on time and we'll get the benefits of it wasn't the problem at all. You know, you don't mind missing that. Back to Mark's point, you're missing the point about getting the benefit through. You're worrying about these tiny, tiny little legal risks. And that's the obsession. And that's the real thing that still hangs around here, actually. It's one thing really gets me cross, actually. If one or two people say, you English guys, you're a bit cool and calm about these things, and they see me occasionally getting really annoyed. And those are the things that get me annoyed. So that's that. Right, now this is the other interesting question with this, because again, you're all project managers, so it's obvious to you. But what you don't realise is lots of other people don't understand this. They don't understand a project when it's staring them in the face. And a lot of it is also because they think they're doing the right things. Now, it brings me back to a very old comedy show in the UK where there was this double act. And there's a guy who's sitting there playing the piano very badly. In fact, he's playing the piano so badly you've no idea what he's playing. It's just a random collection of notes, but he's thrashing away, you know. Imagine, you know, any of you who can't play the piano just doing this. So anyway, his comedy double act partner comes in and says, what is it you're playing? I don't recognise that tune. And the other guy says, it's Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. And he's going, interesting. Doesn't sound anything like anything at all. How come that's the case? He said, well, it's all the right notes, they're just in the wrong order. Now, some of the work here on project management tends to be a bit like that. There's a lot of things going on, but they're not in the right things. And this is really part of what this is as well. You know, people don't see a project when they see it. Forgetting you actually just need to get a bit of organisation around it and getting it running properly. And so even when they say, yes, we'll have a project, it's still only half the task. You know, they don't always recognise they need a good project manager. They need a lot of people with the time and energy to do it. You can't keep giving the same people all the work, or indeed giving it to people who don't really know what they're doing. So, you know, the good thing with setting up this agency was actually, it was relatively new, and there was a willingness to start to recognise this. There's still a lot of learning going on, but you could also see from the past how there had been project managers there, but nobody wanted to know what they could do. They were sort of an undervalued resource. It was just the kind of missing opportunity. And I suspect this is common around a lot of the public sector here. Having said that, there's still, you know, still a lot of people who don't see the benefits of a lot of this. You know, they've seen things like the creation of this agency come through, happen on time, still a good thing. They've seen it's done what it said it would do. They've seen the benefits of organised management that gives them good, regular updates of where things are, where the problems are. Not all the things that they don't need to worry about. Here's the problem, here's the answer. But they still don't always get the benefits of it. And many people still seem to perceive it as almost trying to fill a management gap. And again, I think this was mentioned earlier, actually. You know, the idea that this, you know, somehow, you know, the operational managers or other people are not doing things. Let's just get the project managers to help sort it out. It's not about that at all. What it's about is actually raising the game. And actually one of the interesting things we've managed to do here is actually, I think it's called the War Room. You know, we created actually a room, which is unusual, which has got things on the wall about how the project's running, how it's been put together, the kind of thing when you're a project manager you expect to see. But you know, this again, it's unusual, but it starts to change the culture that that's the way things are done, the way you hold meetings and everything. So it's these sort of cultural changes that get to bring things in. And again, it's all statements of the obvious to all of you. Problem is though, having persuaded people that project management is a good idea in doing these things, they think that's all there is to it. Just get some project managers in and they'll just use those standard management techniques, you know, straight out the manual. They'll get on with it. Everything will happen. But I don't know about you, and certainly this is what Mark was saying earlier, It's unusual for big change projects to be about what you've already been doing, the things you already know. Most of this is about dealing with things differently, finding different answers or new answers or fresh answers to what the problems are. And so much of this is about the project managers, even if they don't know the answer, recognising that they need one, if you see what I mean. Because if it's something that you could solve by the usual way of doing it, there's two things to it. One is it going to be good enough? Is that why you're still where you are? Is this the level of change you're working on? Or is it because it's the wrong answer? Because if you're looking for transformational change, not the incremental changes, if you're looking for something that's going to be a big step change, it's very likely what you're going to be doing is very differently. And sometimes there's a bit of a struggle here because there's an awful lot of really good analysis goes on, SWOT analyses all over the place, you know, people looking at things and saying, yeah, we can see the difficulties here. But what they can't often see is the way out of that problem that's going to give them that big leap. They can all see the little steps that will take them forward, but in 10 years' time they'll still be back there and not over here where you want them to be. The other thing actually I've noticed is people think you can do everything. There's a huge amount going into projects. You know, just let's have the project that's going to solve everything we've ever wanted to solve in one go. And we're going to do it for everything now. And, you know, it's going to be fantastic. Well, that would be nice. But again, Mark was almost saying the same thing earlier. You know, people try and do things, but they suddenly realise it doesn't quite work like that. And one of the big things we've been using here is this word here. Descope. Let's just throw most of it out. Let's just get down to the basic things you really need to do to make it happen. The other one, and again, Mark mentioned this earlier, funny how this goes round, this whole idea of piloting and testing things to make sure they can work properly. You know, just try it out first, let's get it going. Allow plenty of time for that. And once it does, get on and use it. Don't go for then trying to complicate it too quickly. You know, get the early bits working, get them rolled out. Now then, just going back to the piano joke, part of the problem with this guy playing the piano, of course, part of the reason it didn't sound like the Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata was because there were an awful lot more notes in than you actually needed to get the tune. So this is part of it, it's making sure that you're just playing a nice, clean, basic tune. Okay? Notes in the right order, not too many of them. You can see what's going on. You can add some orchestral flourishes later when you're getting better. Okay? So. Now, one other thing just about this example is this is a really nice one, I think, here, is going back similarly to when we were doing a lot of things in the UK, well, 10, 15 years ago, trying to change the way we did a lot of things in terms of serving taxpayers and the customers. And now we use the customer word deliberately because in those days you had people who worked in the tax authority and the people who were on the receiving end of the tax authority, if you understand what I mean by that. You know, people who were paying, but generally feeling they were being punished and hit, and all those things that go with the association of paying tax. And we were trying to change the idea that actually you shouldn't be scared, it should be easy, and make it simpler. But to bring that idea across and to use a lot more of the techniques that were already out there in the commercial world that we knew about, we needed to get all of the people working in the organisation to stop calling the people they dealt with taxpayers and start calling them customers. And this led to a huge amount of resistance to start with, because people said, but they're not customers, they're still taxpayers. Well, actually, they're still your customer. You're the one who's got to think about their reaction to you. But once they started to get this idea, we could then begin to persuade them that that was the right way of approaching things. But this was where this skills and understanding comes in, because this really slowed down some of the work. We had to bring in people from outside to start to change the language to start with, before we could begin this kind of journey. We had to start to get people to understand how a lot of the commercial customer awareness and all the clever things nowadays you see around behavioural economics worked not just in terms of how you get somebody to buy, I don't know, this brand of water instead of another one, because you're doing something to make this one feel a much sexier bottle. You know, it's the one you actually want because you can stroke this bottle much more. I don't know, but it looks, you know, it's a much more attractive product you want to sell. All those techniques, how you use them to get people to want to interrelate with you in a public service organisation in the same way. Okay, we're not selling water, and we're not really selling a sexy product, but you've still got to think about how you interact. And those were the sorts of things we were doing. And that's the kind of thing we are now expecting. Sorry, I'm stealing the water here. We're now expecting our project managers to be thinking about, you know, what else is missing? What are they doing? It's this broader awareness of the things you can bring in. Right, on the next one. So, a bit like the leadership question, really. This is, even if you've got somebody who's leading it, you need to feel they're owning it. Because sometimes there's still this feeling that, yeah, we want it doing, but not sure we want to be too close to it, just in case it goes wrong. It's usually what the problem is. People don't really want to be too associated because, you know, you need somebody else to take the blame when it doesn't work. So it really, really is important that this is owned. But it isn't just actually by the top leaders, it has to be owned by everybody, actually. You need everybody who's involved with it to feel they own it, it belongs to them. It's not simple buy-in, it's something that they feel they really are committed to and got the energy to want to make happen. And a lot of this is actually, again, back to the hows. And again, Mark was talking about hows, you know, because this is about, you know, what is it you're trying to do and why are you trying to do it? What's the persuasive reason for doing it? You know, what's in it for them? Well, actually, as a project manager, if nothing else, having something fantastic on your CV that you've delivered. That's always a good sales pitch for the project team, but for everybody else, you've got to think of things that are going to get them in there. But the other one is actually getting them confident that it can do it. Because it's all very well saying we're going to deliver this thing, I don't know, maybe this new iron bridge, for example. Back in the days when you've never seen an iron bridge and you've got no idea what he's talking about. You know what a bridge is, but what's an iron bridge? You know, that sort of idea. So you've got to get the idea across that it can be done and showing them how it can be done in nice, bite-sized, easy-to-conduct ways so that they actually want to do it. And this is back to where this whole point about de-scoping and not over making things too complicated is important. Because if you get too much complication, people can't actually see it can be done. It needs to be things that can be done. So that's what matters. But actually, when you get this going, what I've noticed here is that the team can deliver things quickly, and they're probably delivering it faster than we would do in the UK. So, you know, everything is possible. Right, move on a bit. Lunch is definitely important now. Oops, wrong one. More on this one. Actually, it's back to the fact I keep saying people. You notice I keep talking about it's all about people. It's the same again, though. But there's more than just the team and the buy-in bit. This is about all those other people who are affected, particularly in the public sector, where you've got a team who are working on it, but they may be working in a bit of a bubble, and they're not actually engaging with all of those other people out there who are going to be the ones who are going to have to do the work or use whatever you've come up with as a process or product. And somehow you've got to get the rest of those people involved and feeling again they're engaged and they want to be part of it. And again, this is so difficult. Because part of the problem is it's not a democracy. You know, you're not working in an organisation where all of the people there have a vote. Well, they do have a vote, but they're not having a vote on whether you're going to do this project or not. You know, they are not there in that kind of position. You've got people who say, this is where we're going, this is what we're going to do. And so getting that engagement is harder. But you've got to engage them in the design process, in the testing process, in the consultation, all of those sorts of things. Those are really important. Get them feeling that something that they also can be proud of, that they would want to be involved in, want to think this is better for them. So they're no longer seen by the outside world as people who work for an organisation that's not very good. They're C-minor outside as an organisation that's actually getting better, pretty good, can do things. That's what it's about. There's a lot more I could talk about there. There's all these things that you're all familiar with as team leaders and so on about coaching the people. The real one, though, is actually thinking about the people who are outside your team, because so often they're the ones who are not getting that support in these changes. The project team, you can look after each other, you can go out at the end of the week for something to celebrate things, you can do things to keep the team spirit up. You can even go to a conference, all sorts of things. But how do you get those other people who may be the recipients of what you're doing involved, particularly if there's a bit of a management void elsewhere? You know, if you're being sent in to fill voids. So this is sometimes a real challenge, how you do that. And of course, it's not just about the people inside. This comes back to those customers, those horrible people out there who are going to have to deal with all those things that you're doing. Because unfortunately, that's what they are. They're your customers, and you mustn't forget that. And I think the important thing here is people sometimes forget that in the public sector, you don't have any choice in your customers. The private sector, actually, you want the customers who are going to pay, going to buy your product, ride on your railway, something, but you want those people. The public sector, you've got some people you want as your customers, obviously, but you've also got probably a lot of people that are going to be really difficult people to deal with, the people that the private sector wouldn't bother with. So you've got all sorts of tricky things to think about how you can engage and relate to people that other people don't bother with. Telephone call centres are the perfect example of this. If you're running a private sector call centre for, I don't know, a telephone company, my mobile phone. You know, if something goes wrong and I can't find the answer on their web, if I'm really lucky, somewhere in there I might find a number I can telephone. It will take me 3 hours to find it, because usually they're very good at stopping you calling them. And then you get through to somebody after a 10-minute wait and they might or might not give you the answer. Now, at the end of that experience, you might think, well, I think I'll go and find another mobile phone company. You've got that choice. And in fact, they may not want me as a customer because they just think I'm not the kind of person they want. It doesn't matter. Somebody else can have me. Public sector, you don't have that choice. People want that service. If you don't answer that phone or they can't find your phone number in 10 minutes, they're going to let you know. So you're on a hiding to nothing in the public sector with all of those things. So it's really important you've got a good idea about what that side of the equation is looking like and what you're going to be delivering and how it relates. And again, that's the kind of skill set that's often overlooked, that the project managers have got to fill that gap and make sure it happens. So. And actually, this is also where it's interesting here, because there was an interesting little fact I stumbled across the other day, actually. It was a piece about the digital divide. And what it said was that in Greece, over 95% of 16 to 25-year-olds are internet users. Now, that's actually a higher proportion than in America, France, or Israel. So, you know, you've got a lot of digital uptake here with the young population. And the average across the OECD for all users is 63% of people across all 33, I think, OECD members. So, you know, that ranges from places like Mexico, Brazil, all of Europe, Japan, and so on. The interesting opposite, though, was the fact here in Greece, only 30% of 55 to 74-year-olds are internet users. Now, that actually comes as no surprise. But on the other hand, there's only 3 countries in the OECD with a lower proportion that way. That's Brazil, Mexico, and Turkey. So some interesting challenges there in these sorts of things, and this is why it's important to understand those perspectives. That, you know, if you were trying to deliver something that was about improving your way of outreaching and so on through the internet, making sure you understand that that's not going to work for everybody. I'm saying that because, again, if the project managers don't think about it in these sorts of situations, nobody else will. Okay? This is why I keep coming back to project managers have got to do everything. I'm exaggerating slightly, but it's that thinking about all of those angles and making sure you've thought about them, or you can find somebody who will. Okay? So, only 2 more, it's okay. Right, communications. Well, this is the other critical thing with all the people. They all want to know what's going on, but they want to know in a way that's persuasive. So, yeah, you've probably got a good vision and direction, I hope, to tell people what you're trying to do and what the benefit is. The problem is, though, if you're then trying to find out what staff or customers think about it, you then get pulled into consultation. And the only thing you learn with consultation everywhere is it takes longer than you think. So you've got this fantastic project delivery time, something's going to be done by then, and the consultation's pulling you back this way all the time because people want more time to tell you about things, and there's all these things they bring up that somehow you've got to say, yeah, we thought about and done something with. So, you know, this is a real bit of caution in there. So it's great in many ways because it helps you get acceptance for what you're doing. It helps you test the ideas. Good stuff. The problem is, though, it's a real risk of delay and so on, particularly, you know, with people who are risk averse. Back to my point before, you know, these are things that could hold you up getting things done and getting the benefits. Right. So, as you're now dying for lunch, we'll quickly wrap up. The good news is it is now almost lunchtime. I think what we can say is in the public sector, the importance of good project management is clear everywhere, and even here in Greece, it's being shown to be a good thing. And we have to make more of these good examples. The RDA, you know, independent agency example was a good one. Actually, Minister Tsakalotos was even quoted in the press last spring about the fact that this was done on time. You know, telling all of his Eurozone counterparts that this was a really successful project and that they could trust him to get things done as a result. So, you know, so tick for project management there. Well done. Good. The problem is, though, it's only the start. And as I say, the expectations of what project management can do here in Greece are actually greater than from other countries because you need to be able to do everything. If I was back in the UK, I would have a project team, but I would know I had many other skills and people to draw on to fill all these gaps. At the moment, we're still finding how to do that. So this is the real challenge. But I think the important thing is actually the fact that you're making progress with it is transforming in itself. People are beginning to see that the public sector can be transformed. And that is a good thing. Because if it isn't, I can see the day in 5 years' time when the customers, the taxpayers, or other customers of government services will be rolling up to the local office in their self-driving car to stand for 2 hours in a queue to get some service. And we can't be doing with that. So, to sum up, we talked about the importance of having a wide view of capability requirements, project managers doing everything, owning things, engaging with people, understanding customers, communicating, actually listening, that consultation, everything, listen, listen, listen. But it's really all about leadership, and that needs the project managers to do it. And what's more, I know from the ones I work with, they can do it because they are doing it. And I know all of you can. But what matters is you go and preach that word more across here so that people understand the value and want it more in the public sector where it really is needed. So, thank you. You can have your lunch now, and I can...
Although the lunch is waiting for us, I have to ask you if someone has a question to Mr. Carr. If this is not the case, you are free.
That's right. The answer is your lunch is ready. Whatever the question was, the lunch must be ready.
Θα επανέλθουμε στην αίθουσα σε 40 λεπτά and then Oliver will be on the floor. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.